Awesome. Thank you, Amanda, for that awesome playlist that we're going to be hearing throughout the morning. Welcome, everyone, to our 2026 New York State Virtual Summer Reading Workshop. I am coming to you live from a field office in Lebrastic Park. It's time to dig in and unearth some dynamite programs. But before we peel back the layers, I do have a few field notes to share. It's important to know who is part of our crew today, so please change your Zoom name to the name that you registered with. You can do this by clicking on the three dots in your box and selecting Rename. Presenters, thank you for joining us today. We have a 5, 8, or 10-minute time slot for you, including some times for Q&A. Everyone else, please drop your questions in the chat. But if you can, to make it easier for our question collector, please put a capital Q in front of that question so that we can easily identify the specimen. Presenters, also, you have a wonderful slide deck guru coming your way. So when you are presenting, just say next slide when you want to move on. We also have a handy dandy timekeeper to keep us on track. So make sure you're paying attention to that little spot in the corner that's going to tell you how much time we have left. One of the last things is also we have breaks put into our presentations, but you're going to have them after each hour. If you need to take a break before then, please feel free to take them when you need them. You will be able to catch back up quickly as you enter back in. And finally, this is also being recorded, so it will be shared with you so you can examine each specimen of each program closely. If you need to pop out, like I said, to take a shift on the desk, or maybe a dinosaur walks into your library, definitely take the time to meet them. We have some 5 presenters in this first hour, so I say let's get Dino started and start with our very first presenter, who is Jessica Park from the Smithtown Library, and she will be presenting Dino Dilemma.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jessica.
Okay. So hi, my name is Jessica Park. I'm a children's librarian at the Smithtown building of the Smithtown Library on Long Island. My program today is Dino Dilemma, which I ran for kids ages 5 to 10 years old. Next slide, please. So Dino Dilemma was an escape room style program where kids worked together to find clues and solve puzzles that led them to find the missing baby dinosaurs. I set up the room to look like a preschool story time with books, crafts, and toys out, and all different clues hidden throughout the room. Next slide, please. So when I'm planning an escape room, I find it easiest to start from the end goal and work backwards. So that's how I'm going to go through all of the puzzles today. The missing baby dinos were locked inside this large breakout EDU box that's pictured, which was locked with an alphabet lock, a directional lock, a key lock, and a 4-digit lock. If you haven't heard of Breakout EDU, they design educational escape rooms for kids, but they also sell kits with the supplies needed to run your own escape room. And for this program, I only used their locks and their boxes, not any of their digital materials. Next slide, please. So the key lock was super simple. The key to the lock was just hidden inside this small Breakout EDU box, which I locked with a 3-digit lock. Next slide, please. So to unlock the 3-digit lock, kids found this page that's pictured hidden among some coloring sheets with 3 different dinosaurs in order. And then those same dinos were hidden around the room. And then once kids found and counted them, they found 5 red dinos, 1 green dino, and 4 blue dinos, which showed them that the code was 514, and that helped them unlock the small Breakout EDU box. Next slide, please. Next up was the directional lock, which used a combination of 5 arrows. Kids found these dino footprints on the floor with the last one missing. So they had the first 4 arrows in the combination. And then after they solved the puzzle for the 3-digit lock and opened the small Breakout EDU box, they found the last arrow to complete the combination for the directional lock. Next slide, please. Then the 4-digit lock had a few different clues scattered around, but they all had 3 blank spaces and a number, so you could see where the number fit into the 4-digit combo. So they found a Play-Doh mat that was dino themed, and it said 6 blank blank blank. And then they found a dinosaur life cycle craft, and it said blank 8 blank blank. They found a book in a dino book display that said blank blank 2 blank. And then the last number was at a watercolor station. I wrote the clue on white paper with white crayon, and I wrote paint me on it. And then the message was revealed once they painted with the watercolors. And then they got the 4-digit combination that way. Next slide, please. Then we had the alphabet lock. That one had a combination that used 5 letters. So kids found this pictured message coded with a bunch of different dinos, and throughout the room were clues revealing which letter each dino represented. There were dino eggs around the room, and some of those had these clues that are pictured there, where it's like the little fossil equals the letter. There were puzzle pieces, and a few letters were revealed when you put the puzzle together. And then I had some fossil-themed sensory bins with a few letter reveals hidden under the sand. Once the message was decoded, it said a T-Rex had very sharp blank, and the answer teeth was the combination for the lock. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, I used the Breakout EDU kit for this program. This retails for about $200, but shout out to SCLS and their lending library, because I did not have to pay for this. I just borrowed it from my library system. I did spend about $17 on plastic dino eggs from Oriental Trading, and then the rest of my supplies were either printable materials or materials that my department regularly keeps in stock, like Play-Doh or watercolors. Next slide, please. So I ran this program for about 20 kids, ages 5 to 10. For a program like this, I find that the younger kids don't really know what to do, and a lot of them don't know how to read. So before I set everyone loose to look for clues, I find it really helpful to start the program by gathering all the kids and explaining each lock that they're trying to unlock. So I point out if we're looking for numbers or letters or arrows and how many of each. I also go over all of the boundaries of the game, so we don't break things, there are no clues hidden in the supply closet, that kind of thing. And then I remind everyone that we're working together to look for clues and solve puzzles. So to help them work together, I like to have a shared spot where the kids can place items that they think might be a clue so that everyone can see all of the clues. And then if any of the kids are having a hard time working with others, or if they're not sure where to start, I like to give them very specific hints or tasks, like this clue has this red dino. Can you find any more of these red dinos in the room? And that helps make sure everyone feels like they're contributing and everyone's playing nice together. Next slide, please. So the planning and prep for this program took me a few hours, but running it again now that all the puzzles have been created would probably take me less than an hour of prep. So if you'd like to run something like this, but you don't have the time to create all of your own prep puzzles, you can visit the link on the screen to download all of my printable materials, along with a write-up of how I set everything up. Next slide, please. And then my contact info is on the screen, and you can feel free to reach out if you think of any questions at a later date, but I can also take any questions now.
Thank you, Jessica. I really thought that that was awesome. I am personally a fan of escape rooms. I absolutely love them, and we do them all. We used to do them all the time, and I think this one was a great one, especially for this summer reading theme. So I have a few questions that are coming through in the chat. So the first one you kind of touched on a little bit, but someone asked, how long did it take? So maybe you could go a little more into like how long did it take you to come up with each puzzle, and then how long did it run from start to finish?
So the program itself, we did 45 minutes. Probably about 5 to 10 minutes of that was just explaining to the kids like how an escape room works. We had a lot of little kids for the session I did. And then the rest of it, maybe like 35 to 40 minutes, was them actually going through all of the different puzzles. And then the planning, I'm not really sure how long each puzzle took because I kind of worked on it all in a group together, but it took me maybe 2 or 3 hours to put everything together for it.
Great, thanks. So a second question that came in was, did all the children work as a group of 20 for each activity?
So we had the clues hidden throughout the room, and then the goal was to have them working together, but especially at that age, they might not want to work together. They might have a hard time sharing and all of that. So it's designed with a bunch of different clues throughout the room so that if a kid isn't great at puzzles, they can just run around and they can find clues on the floor. They can bring it over, and some of the older kids that might be better at solving puzzles can start working on like decoding something together. So we had little groups that were all working on different things, but everybody was able to feel included and work on something at the same time.
That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. So one of the other program or questions that came in was the whole program in one room?
Yes. Yep, it was just in one program room. And then, like I mentioned, I set it up to look like a preschool story time. So then we had toys out, we had tables with craft stations, and then like our story time rugs with like a book display out. And then everything was just contained in that one program room.
Great, thanks. I just came up with a question for myself was, so how many, did you have a lot of staff in the room or volunteers helping guide, or were you relying on the older children to help the youngers?
So it was just me in the room as far as staff goes. We did have a couple parents that wanted to stay, and we did advertise it as a drop-off program, but I didn't turn away any parents that felt like they wanted to stay. So some of them were helping with like their kindergartners. But for the most part, it was pretty easy to direct the kids to like, oh, you aren't very good at puzzles, maybe look for these dinos throughout the room. You can do that scavenger hunt, that kind of thing, to give everybody a quick thing to do. So it was pretty manageable just as one staff member.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And everybody, I think we should give Jessica a little dinorific round of applause. And if there is going to be any further questions, like if you think of something later, definitely we will be sharing the slides as well as the fact that this will be recorded, as I said. So you'll have Jessica's contact information if you want to bounce ideas off of. I'm sure she'd be welcome to that. So thank you again, Jessica. We
Thank
appreciate you
you.
kicking us off with this awesome program. Thank you. Okay, so now we're about ready to take a look and dig into another specimen. We have Digging Up Discoveries at Bryant Library. This is Eileen Kelly from the Bryant Library, and she's going to be talking to us about doing all kinds of getting our hands dirty and digging up some good stuff. So thank you for being here, Eileen, and take it away.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So before I get started, I'm just going to go in with a little bit of housekeeping. For the purposes of this presentation, I am approaching this as a very large scale program, and we have the luxury of having an outdoor space. However, that being said, it does not need to be the largest scale program, and it doesn't need to be done outdoors. It's just for the purposes of this awesome theme this year. I'm able to apply it in a slightly different way than I've done it before, but I have done this indoors on a smaller scale, and I'll kind of walk you guys through it, even though it doesn't really appear on the slides necessarily that way. However, we can dig it. So let's move on to the next slide. So we are approaching this as our summer reading kickoff party this year, and we're bringing in a couple of different elements to an archaeological dig site. So we have the luxury of having a great thing called the Center for Science Teaching and Learning here on Long Island. It's not too far away from me. And it is a great place where they have, now they've installed an interactive dinosaur exhibit with all of these animatronic dinos. There are lots of dino experts on staff, including paleontologists and entomologists and all sorts of stuff. One of the dinosaurs, fun fact, is actually from the visitor center in Jurassic Park because the owner of the preserve used to be the PA for Steven Spielberg. But before we get into all that, this is about libraries. So we're having a dino expert visit us from CSTL, and they are going to bring some real dino fossils for the kids to look at. And then they'll be making their own little fossil prints with us inside. It's sort of a little bit of a whistle wetter before they get to go out to our archaeological dig site, which we'll have outside in our Lowell parking lot, which will be closed off for the day. Next slide. So in order to do that, I am using 2 10x10 canopy tents, almost to try to make it look as realistic as possible. It will be cordoned off with ropes and all sorts of elements to make it look more like an archaeological dig site and less like a parking lot. Our dig site is going to be consistent of 2 inflatable pools that will be filled with different types of medium, mostly play sand. Some of it will be dyed so that you can have the striations and the colors layered for the kids because they kind of get into that. And then there's also the opportunity for secret education, which I personally love. And you can also turn some of the play sand into a more kinetic sand type of material so that they get the different sensory experiences as they're digging as well. We will have little trowels and things, but it's been my experience when I've done it indoors in the past that after about a minute or 2, those things kind of get pushed to the side and they just get right in with their little hands, which is great. Buried and hidden in that material and media will be various fossils. Some of them will be real fossils that we've purchased, like gigantic bags of megalodon and shark teeth and ammonites and geodes and things like that. We also have a great maker space here and a wonderful tech librarian who has donated some time to me and is helping 3D printing some kind of fossils and things to help save us a little bit of scratch because it can get expensive to try and put this endeavor together for between 50 and 100 kids. So basically, we're looking at a fair amount of money for a setup. If you didn't have anything, I've provided the numbers here, but we also have Nassau Library System has 10x10 canopy tent that they could borrow you. So you might not have to buy all of the things outrightly. Next slide. So we're also going to have a geology element to our thing. Our friends of the library approached us and said that they had a really good fundraising year. They wanted us to do some sort of big element to contribute to our thing here. So for the cost of $750, this company will bring the pre-packed bags and the panning elements, and they will do a panning exercise. They'll explain a little bit of the geology to the kids, and that would be the cost to do 60 children for $750. So I later came to find out that this lovely 25-foot slouse pictured in this slide is also available for hire for $2,400, which is like a lot of money, but it's also really impressive. I really wanted that, and my friends maybe not that rich. So if we go to the next slide, this is how I imagine being able to create my own version of a slouse if my friends are not that rich. TBD, I'm still waiting to see how much money they want to give me, but we'll see. You can make your own. It is a little bit of an endeavor if you have a DIY type of person, or if you are a DIY type of person, you can put it together using collapsible rain tank, feeding it with some regular spigoted hoses, and the planters just need to be fitted by basically attaching them so that they connect end to end. It can either be done by cutting them or attaching them with a pipe, and then using these large plastic bins. When I've done this program indoors previously, we used the clear version of the large plastic bins for the sands, and we used a larger, more rectangular and slightly shallower one for the washing pan. They used the same little plastic slousing pans to rinse their little rocks and items off. And then they would use an identification thing, which if you purchase the bags, they come with the identification posters and booklets. If not, and you're creating your own bags by buying bulk, which was what I'll be doing, I just create my own poster in Canva of the different elements that they could possibly find within their slousing bags or within the fossil hunts. So basically the rain tank continuously runs because it's fed with a hose. And if you have a slight downgrade, which I'm going to use the adjustable height tables to help me get that downgrade safely, and just run it down into the bus bins so that they can wash their little bits off towards the end. Pretty much anything that allows them to get their hands dirty and probably a little bit wet and make a mess is going to be a hit. So it's kind of worth the endeavor in my eyes, but not for everybody, perhaps. And you might not have a big outdoor space as well that you have to accommodate all of this. So I believe next slide, we get down to the brass tacks. So if you've got absolutely nothing, but you still want to do all of this and you have the outdoor space and you've got some DIYers on hand, you could put it together all for about $1,400 or between 19 and 25 bucks a kit. Again, it's not a regular library program. This is kind of a more large scale plan here, but being as I'm using it for my kickoff party, I'm willing to invest a little bit more money towards that. And the biggest part of it is giving them the experience, the education, and they'll be taking home a lot of the smaller bits and things like that. And then we have a lot of sensory programs that we do. So like we would probably recycle the play sand to use for things like sensory elements and different craft programs and stuff like that too. And we're also hopefully going to have a museum at the end of summer where the kids can contribute different crafts and different projects that we've worked on throughout the summer, and they can come and have like a sort of a viewing and a night at the museum here. So it's a bit of a pie in the sky type of a thing, but it's a really cool thing that you could make happen if you're willing to, and I'm kind of crazy enough to. So I believe that is it for me, because I think the next one just thanks you all for your time.
Well, thank you, Eileen. That was awesome. And yes, I would love to come to that program and get my little shaker and see if I can find myself some good gemstones, because I'm a sucker for that too. I have a couple of questions that are coming through in the chat, so let's get started with those. Someone said our big problem would be storage. So where do you keep the stuff when you're not using it?
Well, most of, like if you were building the giant sloughs, the planter boxes should be able to be detached and collapsed back into one another so that you could use it again if you wanted to build it. They would not be very useful as planters anymore because they would have to be cut and or drilled. However, you could collapse them. The rain barrel itself is also foldable and collapsible, so that also collapsed down to somewhat more of a flat pack rectangle. The sand is the biggest part of it. Some of it would obviously be trashed because it's going to be washing away and things of that nature. Because it is natural sand, that's okay outdoors wise for the environment. But if you did want to save some of it, like we would likely keep whatever would be mostly salvageable to use for sensory programs and things like that. The pools also collapse down because they're inflatable. And then it would be a bin or two, perhaps, of extra things that didn't get taken. If you end up with any fossils, I'd almost be surprised because, you know, the kids will ask for everything. They'll ask for the magnifiers and the chip brushes, and I'm planning on losing most of the things. So I'm not sure what I'll end up storing.
That is totally understandable for sure, because yes, they always want the extras. Yeah. So another question was, did you set a rain date? I know you said you used tents, but did you set a rain date?
We do have a tentative, yes, for 2 weeks later. So it would be a Saturday morning, and then 2 weeks later, the Saturday morning. Hopefully we get good weather, but it's also, you know, if it's too hot or if it's raining or whatever, it depends as well. So.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I think we are about ready to move on. Thank you so much, Eileen. I wish you all the best, and I hope maybe you find something truly unique with your sleuthing adventures and digging down into those. We're ready to start our next presentation, and we'd like to welcome Melanie Miller. She is from the Alfred Box of Books Libraries, and she is going to talk to us about STEM in summer. So thank you, Melanie, for being here, and we'd love to hear. Take it away.
Hi, yes, I'm Melanie Miller. I am the director of the Alfred Box of Books Library. You can switch to the next slide, please. So I just want to give you a little bit of background about Alfred. We're located in Allegheny County, New York. Our library serves a chartered population of just over 5,000. Our building is just about 1,400 square feet. And there are 4 staff members here. I'm the only full-time staff member, and this is my 11th summer reading. So I wanted to share those details with you all so you could see how you could scale things for your own libraries. Next slide, please. So my goals for today are to provide ways that we can incorporate STEM into informal learning. Informal learning is really important. It's anything that happens outside of school. It gives access to STEM education to students who might not otherwise receive it. I'm going to provide you with tools to help you gain confidence in providing STEM education and STEM programming in your libraries. I know that it doesn't always come naturally to us. I know that it can be intimidating, but hopefully you'll have some confidence coming out of this. And then lastly, I want to provide scalable and affordable options that you can implement in your own libraries. Next slide, please. I have some tips for running a successful STEM program. Always do a run through before the day of the program. This helps you be prepared. It helps you facilitate the project, the experiment that you're doing. And it lets you work out any hiccups that might come. And so that helps you have confidence when you're presenting the program. Unlike traditional learning, informal learning settings, we're prepared for all ages and ability levels. Unlike a classroom where like they all might be 6-year-olds, in the library, you can have a wide range of ages and ability levels. So I always try to have preparations in place so that you can scale programs up or down to meet the needs of all the participants. And lastly, don't be afraid to mess up. Inevitably, no matter how much you prepare a program, an experiment will go wrong, but that's a great learning opportunity. You can ask what went right, what didn't work, what can we try again? It's all part of the learning process. Next slide. So I have prepared 3 lesson plans. The first one is Math with Dino Footprints. I think these lesson plans are going to be made available to all of the participants. But Math with Dino Footprints, you're going to create a template of a dinosaur footprint, and then children are going to make a template of their own footprint to compare and contrast. In the lesson plan, I provide a chart of the actual sizes of the dinosaur footprints, a general idea of their shape, and the kind of dinosaur. And then you can just tape these to your floor, and then the children will make their own template and then compare how many of their own footprint can fit inside the dinosaur. The lesson plan includes ways to make the program passive. So if you don't have enough staff or time, resources, whatever, you can make it a passive program and just hang your dinosaur templates on the wall and provide the materials so they can make their own footprint template, cut out some paper and put it on the dinosaur. And then you could also, if you're feeling really brave, make it a messy program and take it outside with some paint. And then lastly, there's ways that you can scale this up for older participants, providing them with rulers to do some actual measurements and practice those math skills. Next slide. This one is dioramas. So we're going to talk about different habitats and environments that dinosaurs lived in and recreate those. I provided in the lesson plans, I provide a chart of all of the different habitats, what each was like, what plants and animals and vegetation might have been there. And then you're going to create a diorama of that. I used the book, I think it's called Dinosaur Atlas by National Geographic, to make this chart. It's a terrific book. I highly recommend it. This program probably has the largest budget just because you could purchase all of the elements for your diorama, but you can also cut a lot of costs by making some of those. So instead of purchasing rocks, you could make rocks with construction paper or even modeling clay. So within the lesson plan, I provide ways that you can cut costs. You can also scale this down for younger children who might not understand fully the difference in environments and habitats. You could just have them be more imaginative and imagine an environment where a dinosaur might live and what plants they might need to eat or whatever, and have them just sort of creatively create a diorama. So that is dino dioramas. Next slide, please. The last lesson is volcanic eruptions, which is, the classic baking soda and vinegar reaction. This one, I provide in the lesson plans ways that you can cut costs. So for this one, you're going to need a jar or something to build your volcano around. You could just use yogurt containers. Ask your community for donations of little yogurt cups. I use cake boards to build the volcano on, but you could just use cardboard that you have at your library. That's fine too. You can also do this program over 2 days or just a single day. If you're going to do it over 2 days, you could build your volcano. You can paint it, decorate it, however, let it dry, and then the next day erupt it. Or you can just do it all in one day, depending on your staffing needs, your program space, all of that. I do recommend definitely doing a practice run of this one, just to get the measurements right for a really explosive eruption. So, do a trial run just to make sure you're getting the measurements perfect. And then I did provide ways that you can incorporate some diversity through cultural myths surrounding volcanoes from around the world. There are a bunch of different myths you can share from different cultures. And then you can also, that lends itself to art and storytelling. You could have the children create their own myth about their particular volcano. They can draw a picture of their myth if they don't have writing skills yet, or they can tell you can write it down, but they can practice telling a story about their own volcano. And I think that was my last slide.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Melanie. I appreciate all of that information, especially when some of us are a little hesitant to really dive into all of these kind of sometimes messy experiments. It's nice to have someone who's had experience with it. So I totally appreciate it. We got some questions coming in, and don't forget, if you're putting questions in the chat, make sure you're putting that Q in front so our question person can grab them. But the first question that came in is there an optimal size for your groups?
So because our space is so limited, I usually have around 12 to 15 at each. But you could, have a larger group if you needed. Maybe break it into stations.
Looking to check to see if there were any other questions. One other thing that I will point out, that if you do the volcano eruptions outside, vinegar does kill the grass. I learned
Yes.
that the hard way. So that's just something to think about if you're going to be doing them outside. You know, make sure you're picking up or putting something down just to try to protect your grass and your lawn, so you don't get yelled at by your groundskeeper. So that is just something that I wanted to throw in there. And then the other thing that I wanted to throw in there, you were talking about using books, especially with the volcanoes. A World Without Summer by Nicholas Day came out, and so that's like perfect to play into what you were talking about, like with that you know, the myths and things like that about around the volcanoes. So that was so cool. So thank you so much for that. I don't see any other questions, but I'm sure people will have some questions later on. And so we're just going to say thank you. And we're going to definitely share those lesson plans with everyone when we share the recording. So that way everybody will have that. And you might get some questions once those come through. So thank you. And let's move on. We have Haley Brown from Steele Memorial Library is going to be joining us next. And she's going to be talking about 4D interactive movies. She's taken a lesson from Universal and getting us all in our sensory situation, digging into that. So Haley, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Like she said, I'm Haley. I work at Steele Memorial Library in Elmira, New York, upstate. Today I'm going to be talking about the interactive movies, and that is a movie showing with themed snacks and 4D effects. It makes it a really fun time for everybody that attends. Next slide, please. Just going to talk a little bit about the population we serve. The children's department itself, serves about 500 patrons a week. And that number goes way up during summer and during school breaks as well. Next slide. Really, the biggest thing I want everybody that attends this program to have is fun. I want everybody to have fun, including the grown-ups that bring their kids to this program, so that they can watch their kids have a fun time and they don't have to worry about planning it or cleaning up after it, really. Next slide. So this planning the event is what takes the most amount of time, I would say. When you're doing this, you want to start by picking the movie on theme. So I went with Dawn of the Dinosaurs from Ice Age, and I watched the movie and I made note of all the foods that were talked about in the movie, and then the effects that I can execute and what time they happen. When you're doing this to plan the snacks, you can search themed snacks like party foods and then make that work within your budget and your space. I capped this off at about 12 kids. That is about what we can fit in our space along with their grown-ups, because most of our grown-ups usually stay with their kids for all of our programs. Make sure that the movie that you're watching is covered under your licensing. I found it's best to have 2 people on staff, and the week that we hold this program, the week leading up to it, and a week after, we're going to have a book display with books from the Ice Age and on theme to the movie. Next slide. So this is the script I've created. You can see I've noted when it happens and what the effect applies to. So my favorite thing to do, it's super easy and super funny, is to spray the kids with water. If it rains or if somebody sneezes, they think that they get a really big kick out of it. Next slide. So the biggest thing that the budget for this program needs to cover is the menu. This is the one that I'm going to do, and I am an extra type of girl, so I really go hard with the themed snacks. You can see I'm making acorn cookies, and that's going to be super fun. And it's a really niche snack for the Ice Age movies, but it's also going to be super easy to make. Next slide. if you don't want to do all the prep, like I fortunately do have a lot of time for prep for my programs like this. If it's easier for your space to choose snacks that you don't have to prepare, like the cookies and the applesauces have dinosaurs on them, you can just hand them out. It's very easy. You could pick a couple things from this menu and the previous one to fit within your budget, because the budget really just needs to cover the food. Next slide. Preparing for the event itself, you just need to make sure you have all the effects ready and set out in the room where you're going to execute them. Have the spray bottles set where you're going to spray the kids. Have the bunched up paper balls at one point they throw berries at dinosaurs, and I'm going to throw bunched up red paper at the kids, and I think they're going to get a big kick out of it. Next slide. Like I said, really just needs to cover the food. Next slide. The biggest thing I found is that we need to budget time for cleanup so that there's not a big mess afterwards, and then to serve all the snacks at once rather than when they're mentioned in the movie. Next slide. This can be bigger or smaller, depends on your space and your community. The prepackaged snacks would be the best for a bigger group. Next slide. And this is a picture from the first one I did. I showed Shrek, and when the puppets sang their song and took a picture of Shrek and Donkey, I took a picture of the kids with Flash, and they thought it was really silly. Next slide. And that's all I have for you today.
Thank you, Haley. That was awesome. I appreciate that so much. And I am too an extra girl. I'm a baker too. So like love to do those extra special things for the kids because they just love it. So we did have a question come in about sharing your recipes. So maybe that's something you could put together and we could put in the resource list at the end.
Yeah, totally. Everything I find, I just find on Pinterest, really. Like the acorn cookie picture, that wasn't mine. I haven't made them yet. So I just found that online, and I'm planning to use frosting to stick together the chocolate and the cookie.
Great. We had another question come in, is what ages are the kids? Is it a family style, or do you have an age group?
Any age, really. In the Shrek movie, I had preschoolers, and then I had a couple 6th graders there. So
a real family event. Another question, do you try to hide yourself, or do you place yourself in view of the kids?
It depends on the effect. I usually just walked in. We have 2 doors, one in the door to the back of the room and a door to the front. You would usually just quietly walk in the back and do it, but for that picture, for example, I just stood in front and I waited for the right moment.
Gotcha. Okay, so these next 2 questions were about food allergies or diet restrictions. Do you ask ahead of time, or do you have another option?
We do on the registration link on our website. We make a note for someone with dietary restrictions to reach out so that we can plan ahead. Like we have a vegan option prepared for the dino nuggets if that doesn't go through. We've had some nut allergies come in that we manage as well.
Great. Cool. All right. Well, I'm just going to remind everybody that the slides will be shared because a few people were asking about going back to the slide with the 4D effects. So those slides will be shared. And so you'll be able to, like I said, examine the specimens at the end. So I thank you so much, Haley, for this awesome presentation. I think it sparked a lot of people's ideas, and I really appreciate it. We'll see you soon. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our final presenter for this particular hour before we take a little break. And so we have Mary Beth Schwartzwalder from Skinny Atlas Library, and she's going to be talking to us about reading Dragons and Friends. So Mary Beth, thanks for joining us, and take it away.
All right, thank you so much. So I am talking about Reading Dragons and Friends, which was a brand new way that we structured our summer reading program last year. Go to the next slide, please. So in the past, our summer reading asked kids and teens and adults to complete some activities, and then we would raffle off prizes throughout the summer. But I wanted to change it because our numbers were starting to dwindle a little bit, our participation numbers. I also wanted to refocus it on reading and do something that would engage reluctant readers. So after a long internet dive, I came across Reading Dragons and Friends, which is a free reading incentive program created by librarians for libraries of any kind. It was originally put together by the Dover Public Library in Ohio, but has since been added to by libraries all over the United States. Go ahead to the next slide. So you will see that this program deals with mythical creatures, but it could very easily just be dinosaurs, or they all of these things can easily be changed throughout the themes that change throughout every summer. So these are mythical creatures, but again, you can do whatever you like. And I highly recommend that if you do something like Reading Dragons and Friends at your library, that you structure it however it fits into your library. And this is kind of how we tweaked the program to make it work for us. So Reading Dragons and Friends are cards. They're sort of like Pokemon cards, where you can collect cards and you can also play a game with the cards. So in our program, you could earn a card every time you read for 30 minutes. You could earn cards in some other ways, like if you visited our story walk, you could earn a card. If you came to a specific program, you could earn a card. But for the most part, it was reading. Go ahead to the next slide. There are many different games that you can play with these cards, and libraries have come up with different versions over the years. We did the Dragon Battle game, which is sort of like rock, paper, scissors, but there's lots of other options as well. Go ahead to the next slide. We weren't sure how this summer reading program would go because the prizes were the cards themselves. So there weren't any additional gift cards, goodie bags, prizes for anything else. And we were worried about how that would go over with our community. At our summer reading kickoff party, we gave out your starter pack of cards, which was 3 cards to get you started with Reading Dragons and Friends, as well as the tracker that I showed you that has you track your minutes of reading. And we tie-dyed some tote bags. We were expecting around 100 people. We had 300 people show up to our kickoff party. So go ahead to the next slide. But at the end of the summer, it turned out that we had a 60% increase in our summer reading participation compared to the year before, which was huge for us. We also heard throughout the summer parents who were saying, you know, my kid doesn't like to read at all. I couldn't get them to stop reading because they wanted to pick out more cards at the library. So that was awesome. We were really excited about that. Go ahead to the next slide. So our service population is around 9,000 residents. The total cost for the program, the making and the printing of these cards, was between $2,000 and $3,000. So we spent about $2,000. We printed at our local UPS store. And they ended up gifting us around $1,000 because as the summer went on, we kept having to print more and more cards. So I think that if you are a library with more resources, for example, if you have a printer in-house that could print these cards and you didn't have to use UPS, that would be awesome. There's many libraries who do Reading Dragons and Friends, where they print in-house and they cut the cards themselves. We didn't have the resources or the staff to do that. So a lot of that money was material. So we bought a special perforated paper. We printed at UPS. And another thing to think about too, if that cost sounds a lot to you, this was like the thing to do the summer were the cards. So I actually didn't do as many of the summer programs I usually would do. And so I got to save on some supplies for those programs as well and put that towards the cards. Go ahead to the next slide. Timeline wise, because this was the first year that we did this program, it was a lot of like thinking and talking with staff about exactly how we would structure it over the summer. And what materials we needed. And then I would say it approximately took me about 7 hours to design these cards. I'm going to show you a website shortly where you can get all of the resources for reading dragons. But we chose to make our own creatures. You don't have to do that at all. So that took a little bit of time for me to do as well, and to put the tracker itself together. And then throughout the summer, we had to print cards constantly. And we also had some folks who were done with their reading tracker really fast because they were super readers. So we ended up putting together a second tracker that was a little bit more difficult, and then designing 2 more cards to go along with that. Go ahead to the next slide. Okay, so this is the Reading Dragons and Friends website. All of the resources that you need to make the cards are on here. You can also see what other libraries do throughout the United States. Many of them do this program all year round. You can also, for those libraries who have shared their cards and their creatures that they've made, you can use those same exact cards, same exact creatures, just make sure you're following their terms of use. If you wanted to do dragons, you could do that very easily in Canva. We're using clip art. Or if you're super artistic, using Photoshop to make your own dragons or your own dinosaurs. All right, next slide. All right, this is a copy of our Canva template. There's a link to it so you can see how we specifically structured our program. I also have a link here to the perforated paper that we used as well, because we didn't have the time to cut out the cards individually. And the software that Reading Dragons and Friends suggests on their website to use to design the creatures is called Fire Alpaca. And there's a link to that. It's very much like Photoshop, but it's completely free to use. So if you're familiar at all with Photoshop, it would be, I think, easy for you to catch on. All right, next slide. All right. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Mary Beth. And yes, we do have quite a few questions coming in, so I'm going to try to get through. I think you answered a few, but we'll revisit them.
Okay.
So the first question was, did you have people pre-register for the kickoff?
No.
Okay, so no pre-registration, just surprise, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, that's good. And you did answer can the program be done year round? So yes, a lot of libraries do. That's what you were saying before. And then next question was, what material was their cards printed on, and does the program come with PDF files? So
yes, so the perforated paper that we got was just like a heavy cardstock. It was not glossy because we were worried the ink wouldn't stick to it. And they were just one-sided too. So the idea was that kids could write their names on the other blank side. But yeah, it was just a heavy-duty cardstock. I'm not exactly sure the weight of it. I can certainly look at that and send it out. But nothing fancy.
okay. And so you said you used an outside printer.
Oh, yeah.
It said, do you need a special printer? But I guess it would just be something that could print on cardstock then.
Yes, we found that Staples would not do it for us because their printers were so good and fancy that it would just tear the perforated paper apart. But of course, if you're cutting them in-house, that may not be an issue for you. But the UPS store, our local UPS store, had a printer that was sort of in between ours and the Staples store, and they were gorgeous. They were gorgeous.
Love it. So I'm going to just throw these two questions together because they kind of go along. So it says, were younger children engaged by the cards, like children under 5? And then the follow-up other question was, did you see an increase in teens participating in summer reading? Did they seem interested in the cards?
So I would say we didn't have a huge amount of kids under kindergarten age participate, but we don't usually see that anyway. I think they're happy going to story time and some of our other programs. They're not necessarily looking for that interactive summer reading stuff. But if you had a sibling who was older, you had to have the cards. And that was part of the reason why we didn't put any ages on them at all. They were sort of for anybody who wanted to do it. And I wouldn't say we saw an increase in teens, although our library is not great at bringing in teens. We're small, we don't have a space for them to hang out. And so we've always been not great at that. And our numbers stayed about the same for teens. It was really in that like 6 to 11-ish age that we saw a huge increase.
All right, well, we are kind of at the end of our time. I know there were a few more questions in the chat, and so I will make sure that you get those, Mary Beth, so you can respond to them if you'd like, either through the chat or via, kind of email later on. And your contact information was there, so I'm sure you're going to be getting a few emails to ask, because it's such an amazing program, and I think it's nice that we're exposing everybody to what is out there for us, especially something that's free, which is awesome. So guess what, Dinosaur Explorers? We have reached our first break. We are going to give you all a 5-minute bio break. And if you want to come back in, we will be having a little bit of transition fun before we get started on our next hour. So don't go too far, but we hope to see you back digging into more summer reading. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in a few.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back for our second hour of programs. We're really excited to see what else our colleagues have for us, and we're going to kick off this second hour with Ann Nelson from Crandall Public Library, and they're going to talk to us about owl pellet jewelry and owl pellet shadow boxes.
Thank you very much. So again, my name is Ann Nelson. I'm from Crandall Public Library. I'm talking about owl pellet jewelry and owl pellet shadow boxes. Slide, please. I think your objective is pretty self-explanatory. Once you see the artist rendering of the shadow box there, you will have your patrons dissect the pellet. They're going to make art from the goodies they find inside. Pretty easy to connect this to the dinosaur theme for the summer. We did it last year and it was a fun program. We did it for 2 different cohorts of kids. I've written out some classy patron goals for you if you desire them. I think probably what most people want to know is how expensive it is for a lot of these programs. This is not too bad. We ran it for about $10 per person, which is, I guess it's a little steep for a tween program. And I know like a lot of you might balk at that it can be kind of spendy. We obviously are a very well-resourced library here, so it was no issue for us. But I think $10 per person, it took me about 10 hours to run it from start to finish to plan everything and do the whole thing. And we did it twice for that amount of time, basically. The $10 too, you can probably do better than I did. I bought the expensive owl pellets because I wanted lots of stuff inside. I would say the other thing to keep in mind is you're going to be giving, a cohort of kids and owl pellets take apart. They're going to make something out of it. Actually, you can go to the next slide. Sorry. So here's my timeline, my 10 hours for everything. And there's a pair of like artist rendering earrings right there. So you're going to send some kids out into the world wearing these earrings and they might wear them for the next decade. And they're going to be really proud of the thing that they made. The kind of kid who makes something like this and actually takes it home is absolutely going to wear it. And they're going to talk about it. It will be a conversation starter. So you will have many, many years of free advertising that you paid for, but free advertising. So you really can't put a price on that. I think your $10 per kid would be money well spent. So I have in pink on the left kind of your reasonable expectations for your planning schedule, and on the right in purple, maybe recommendations for how long I figured it would take you to do stuff. Definitely have a volunteer make some samples for you and have them up in your library. The longer you've got the samples up, the better. So I had it a little hard to see, but this is one that my teen volunteer made. They did a nice little kind of artistic thing. You could kind of skew these a little more scientific. If you wanted it to look more like a scientific specimen, you could definitely do that with like kind of an exploded view of the rat or whatever it is that you find in the pellet. Slide. Here's my budget, my $10 per person. People are asking where we got the owl pellets. You can get those from like a million different places on the internet. We used a scientific supply company called Carolina Biological Supply. So the owl pellets come in a little burrito, which you take apart. Slide. Okay, my random tips because I've only got a minute. So when you take apart this owl pellet, the kids are going to want to go in like laser guided into one spot in the pellet. Do not let them do that because they're going to spear the skulls. So you're going to take the tinfoil off. You're going to agitate the surface of the pellet with whatever your tool is, and it's going to be like thickly felted. And so you're going to be able to peel apart the felt on the surface, and then everything else in the middle isn't really felted. It's just compressed. And it's going to kind of expand. And so then you can get into your kind of like natural observation, it's more dense in this area, so I can work it with my tool a little better to get the skulls and the goodies and the stuff that you want out of there. You can get, online all kinds of like animal charts, bone charts from Cornell Bird Labs are a great resource. The owl pelts we got from the biological supply had, they were very highly rated, lots of good, like lots of bones inside, 4-star reviews. And also they came with access to these little printable things, but they're free online. Let's see, I think, how much time do I have left? My time's up. Oh, perfect. Slide, sorry. Final stuff. Yeah. However you want to sell the program to your audience. There are many ways.
Thanks, Anne. Somebody in the chat was wondering if you could tell us quickly, did the kids clean the pellet or the bones before they created with them? And if so, how did they do that?
Cleaning the bones is pretty low effort. They're going to come out, just use a toothpick to get them out or extricate them from the fluff, basically. And then you can just kind of brush them off. These were not cleaned with peroxide. They're a little gray. Sorry, it's like kind of dark, but they're going to look fine. You'll be able to clean them up, no problem. You won't need anything special. Peroxide would brighten them up if you wanted to do that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That's a really interesting take, and I'm sure some of us will be having a great summer with owl pellets.
Treasure them
Thank
forever.
you. So up next, we have Laura Markowitz from Huntington Public Library, and she's going to share with us her ideas for running a prehistoric playtime program.
Hi, my name is Laura. I'm from the Huntington Public Library in Suffolk County on Long Island. Next slide, please. So why do we do sensory bins? Well, sensory bins are not just fun. They also help children learn important skills that they need. So they help with fine motor control, language and social skills, sharing practice with their peers, and body awareness. Next slide, please. Sensory bins can also have a calming effect on children of all ages, adults. Think about like when you see a child who's out and they're like very upset, anxious, dysregulated, you may hand them like a sensory toy, a fidget, like a calming strip. So same kind of thing. It helps shift their attention from whatever the anxiety stressor is to this calming, predictable, repetitive action. And then that actually helps build the neural pathways in their head that help with self-regulation. And this can even apply to older kids, even adults. If you think about like when you come home and you're tired and you might watch an episode of like Friends or The Office that you've seen a million times and you know the ending, it's predictable, it's calming, same idea for sensory bins. So you can use this for children, for big kids, for anyone. Next slide. Don't believe me, believe these articles. So this is where I pulled my information from. I mean, I've been doing this for a bit, but you can scan these later so you can learn more about the benefits of sensory play. These are just some really good articles that talk about what sensory bins do and sensory toys for children and the importance of it. Next slide. Okay, so my program specifically was for children ages 3 to 5. I did 2 sessions that were 30 minutes each. I took 10 kids in each session because I wanted to accommodate 20. We have a pretty big toddler population that uses the library, so I needed to accommodate a larger group, but you can't have 20 kids in a sensory program, at least in our size rooms. So I split it in half. I had the stations on the floor, so I had the tables flat so the kids can sort of like explore on their own without having to worry about like moving up to a table or kind of like settling in too much. It allows them like a little bit more freedom to move around the different stations. And I just wanted to note that because I marketed my program for children ages 3 to 5, I did not worry about small parts or choking hazards, but I did allow siblings in with just a little warning to the caregivers that like there are small parts. But I have a slide at the end that talks about how you can adapt these sensory bins or like any sensory bins to take the small parts out. They're super flexible. You can really just change them up, throw in anything. Next slide, please. So station number 1, kinetic sand with dinosaur molds. Next slide. Okay, so these actually I wound up just buying straight from Amazon. Everything was included. You can of course make your own, buy different pieces if you're not happy with what you see on Amazon, but I bought a set very similar to the one seen here, $24.99, and I used 2 sets. So it comes with the bin, it comes with the sand, it comes with the scoopers, it comes with the sand molds, it comes with all kinds of stuff. I really didn't use those little extras that it came with. I don't know, it just seemed like too many things. But everything's included, and they're a little on the smaller side. They're maybe about like this big. So I did 2 per station instead of like the larger size sensory bins that we kind of picture when you think about sensory play. All right, next slide, please. Station 2 was white Play-Doh with shells. Next slide. So for this, I used white modeling dough. Don't use Model Magic because it doesn't have that same kind of like press-in effect. And then this I just paired with shells. I didn't, but you could pair it with like larger dinosaur toys that make like a fossil. So the idea is to make sort of like a fossil that they can take home. And I just included a picture of one that I thought was really nice. It may have been made by a grown-up, but it looks really nice. Just pressing in all the different shells. And yeah, I allowed them to take these home. Next slide. Thanks. Station 3 was dinosaurs frozen in chunks of ice. Next slide. So for this, I used actually the little dinosaurs that came with the kinetic sand kit, and I just froze them in take out food containers a day or 2 before, and then I took them out right before the program and put them in trays so they wouldn't slide all over the place and slide off the tables, and then I gave the kids these hammers that I also bought on Amazon. I would recommend no more than 1 child hammering per tray at a time so that the kids don't hammer each other's fingers. I learned this the hard way. I've actually done this program several times with no incidents, but I did learn it the hard way at the end, so do not make the same mistake I did. Everybody is fine, no broken bones, we're all good, but we don't want that to happen again. So, next slide, please. Okay, station 4 was black beans, colorful pom-poms, and dinosaur bones. Next slide. So I bought a set like this on Amazon. I liked this one because it included like little skeletons and then also individual bones. I wound up not using those eggs. They were flimsier than they look. And then I just threw them in a bin with black beans, and then I added some scoopers and some colorful pom-poms just for a different texture, like the juxtaposition of like the hard beans and the soft pom-poms and some color to make it inviting. Next slide. And then here's a couple ways, I know I'm running out of time, to adapt for children under 3. Next slide. I'll just go through super fast. You can use bath toys in artificial snow. You can make mud with just like cornstarch and cocoa powder and water. You can literally dye water with anything. I use a Crayola marker. Lentils and Play-Doh shapes. You can use oat scoopers with like toilet paper rolls and finger puppets. Play-Doh and Play-Doh mats. Fan favorite is the shredded paper pool, and I threw in some egg shakers to make it more like a dinosaur nest or any kind of nest. And then I'm personally comfortable using kinetic sand with pieces with that aren't too small with the younger kids. Next slide. last thing, just a couple little things to remember. The sensory bins do get mixed up. It's going to happen. It is inevitable, and it's definitely okay. If you feel a little anxiety, like when you see them getting all mixed up, just take a picture ahead of time and you'll feel better. That's why I have so many pictures. And then it's also okay for the parents and caregivers to chat with each other. It's obviously designed for them to chat with the children, but like sometimes parents just need that space. And then also just a reminder that it's okay for older kids to participate too, and maybe even consider a sensory bin program specifically for older children. And remember, it has a calming effect, and if they're not interested, they won't sign up. Next slide. That's all. Any questions? I did see questions, but thank you.
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions in the chat. Is the program weekly or a one-time?
This is a one-time thing, but I have done like sensory programs that are weekly, but because this was a dinosaur themed one, I just did it as a one-time.
Okay. And another person asked, do you allow kids to chip away at only one dinosaur in the ice bin?
There are, I think I put 2 dinosaurs per ice block. And the kids just kind of like move around however they want. I would just allow only one child per ice tray at a time. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Another question, could you somehow provide some discussion prompts for parents?
Oh, yeah, that would be a great idea. I mean, maybe like a couple of signs on the walls, like next to each station would be good to like facilitate the conversation and like encourage the language.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, that is.
Another colleague is asking what kind of hammer you use. Is it a regular hammer?
No, it's from Amazon. There's a link, I think, I typed in what I searched. I think it was $5.99. It's a toy hammer. I mean, it's definitely, no bones were broken when the child's finger got hammered. I would not hand them a regular hammer, but still, you know, it's still a hammer. So no, it's plastic.
Okay. Thank you, Laura. There were so many great ideas packed into that presentation. I'm sure that we're all very inspired. Sensory Play is such a great program for children and families. Another question, does ice fly everywhere when they hammer the ice?
No, it really doesn't. It kind of melts like faster than, and they're not that strong. They're,
okay.
You know.
Cool. Good to know.
Thanks.
All right. We're going to move on to our next presenter. Coming up, we have Ray Hart from the Utica Public Library to talk about dinosaur nightlights.
Hello. Hi. I'm Ray Hart. I'm a youth services librarian from Utica Public Library. Utica is a city located about an hour east of Syracuse, and we have a population of about 65,000 people. Our library serves a very diverse community, and we see a big uptick in program attendance during the summer, where people are looking for free and fun things to do while school is out. So this summer we'll be making Dino nightlights, and after this presentation, I hope you'll consider making some too. I'd like to give credit to Crafts by Amanda, who posted the original tutorial. Next slide, please. So, why should you do this craft at your library? Well, it's a widely accessible craft that can be done by children as young as 5 years old and all the way up to teens. It also can be adapted to a wide range of abilities. This craft also gives kids the opportunity to practice useful skills like measurement and following directions. It helps build their confidence. They get to connect with their peers and artistically express themselves. It's also pretty easy and fun to do. Next slide, please. So to make a dino nightlight, you will need decorative rocks, plastic dinosaurs, jars with lids, plastic plants, sand, and submersible lights. Optionally, you can also use craft moss, double-sided tape, and a glue stick to decorate your lid, but that's optional, it's not necessary. And a quick note about a submersible light. It's similar to a tea light, but there's an important difference. Electric tea lights have a little switch on their bottom to turn them on and off, while submersible lights twist to turn on and off. You're going to be attaching this to the bottom of your jar lid. So a tea light wouldn't work because you can't access the switch. So you need to get submersible lights. I got some that go through the entire color spectrum, which give off a pretty cool effect. Next slide, please. The instructions are actually very straightforward. You just attach the submersible light to the lid with adhesive Velcro. Then you put sand in the jar, arrange the plants, dinosaurs, and rocks however you like. It is that easy. The longest part of the program is letting the kids pick out their decorations and dinosaurs. And arranging them in the jar really shouldn't take more than 10 minutes at most. I estimate if I run this program solo with 10 to 15 attendees, it would take me about 1.5 hours from setup to teardown. Your mileage may vary. Maybe you'll get help with your setup and cleaning afterwards, or maybe you're gonna have this as a station that's part of a larger event. I also did not account for how much time it will take you to acquire your materials before the program, because that does depend on your budget. Next slide, please. So, a month ago, the cost of materials to make 12 Dino Nightlights was $91 if you bought everything new off Amazon. And that's about $7.58 per nightlight. How can you bring that cost down? Well, you could probably find jars and sand for free. I suggest recycling peanut butter jars. I am always going through peanut butter, so I have a lot of them around personally, but sourcing the jars and sand brings the cost down to less than $5 per nightlight. You could also do a variant on this craft, which is just a dinosaur terrarium. And it's the exact same craft, except you don't use the submersible lights. So you don't have to buy the lights and you don't need the adhesive Velcro. And of course, you don't need to use those optional decorative lid decorations. Alrighty, next slide. Finally, I have a few tips. Please get more jars than you think you need. You need one to make an example Dino Nightlight for your promotion and marketing. You'll need another jar for when you're demonstrating the craft during the program itself. And then I would suggest having 2 more jars on hand as backup, just in case any of them malfunction during the program. Go step by step together. Let the children use the materials creatively as long as they aren't disruptive. If you or somebody you work with is concerned about the mess, I've used some methods to effectively contain that. I haven't done this program before, but I have done stuff like Slime Party and Cereal Party. What I've done to contain the mess is use activity trays. They're kind of like plastic lunch trays where you can keep everything contained on them. I've also used plastic tablecloths, and for Slime Party, I even taped tarps down on the floor just to make sure the mess wouldn't get everywhere. Next slide. That is everything. I hope you have fun this summer and get crafty, and I'm available for questions if you have any.
Thanks, Ray. That's a really fun craft, and we all really appreciated your ideas for scaling and saving money where you can and using different materials. We did have a couple questions. Someone was wondering, can you use hot glue to attach the submersible light?
Yes, you definitely can. The original tutorial actually has you use a hot glue gun, but that's not something that I would personally feel comfortable with running a program solo, having kids having access to a hot glue gun if my attention is divided. So I did my best to redo this craft without hot glue. But
Okay.
if you feel comfortable doing that, of course, you do you.
Yeah, that makes sense though. Hot glue can go different ways sometimes. And the other question is, what is the patron age range that you had make the lanterns?
Oh, so I have not done this program yet. Personally, it's something that I am planning to do this summer. Honestly, we have the best attendance when we have a wide age range for our programs in our community. So I think I will be doing for ages 5 to 17.
I'm sure it will be a great big hit. Thank you so much, Ray.
Thank you.
We are going to move on to our next presenter. We have Christine Adams from the Wallkill Public Library talking to us about Mother Earth Monday.
Hi. Can you hear me? Am I invited? Oh, yep, I'm unmuted. Hi, my name's Christine, and I am going to talk to you about my Monday program for the summer reading program. It's called Mother Earth Mondays, and we're going to meet for 5 weeks this summer and dig into nature-based programming, featuring different things that we can gather in our yard. And like I said, it'll be every Monday, and it's going to be geared to school-age children, homeschoolers, and we have a small special needs group of teens that participate in some of our summer programs. And it's generally geared to kids ages 5 to 12, but I am lenient with the younger and the older because we have lots of families that participate this summers, and I like to make sure that no one's left out. Next slide, please. My overall goal of the program is to show kids and folks that you don't have to go to the store and buy a ton of supplies for your summer crafting. Unearth a Story to me lends itself to nature-based programming. So it was just natural to head outside and look at the natural items in our backyard, and because there's an abundance of beauty out there and things that you can use all the time. It took me a day just to plan a 5-week program, just thinking about different things that we have on hand here and what is available to us outside. The prep each week is going to be about 30 minutes to an hour to either gather or buy a minimal amount of things that we might need. Next slide, please. My week 1, I called it the yard harvest, and our goal is to go outside and to look around our big yard. Our library has got quite a big yard in front of us, so there's lots of trees and lots of things that we can to stop and take a look around and gather up some of the stuff that we have outside. Kids will just find things they'll gravitate to. It'll be something they'll want to showcase, admire maybe, and we'll pick those things up, gather them up, and we'll create a nature mobile using anything that they find: sticks, rocks, leaves, feathers, dried grasses, pods, nuts. I'll have to add some supplies like colored string, some yarn, some scissors. My planning and prep, I'm going to have some things gathered up ahead of time before they show up, but I will send them out in the yard to find some of their own other things that they like. Ideally, my budget for this program is 0 because everything is readily at hand outside. I do have all the other stuff on hand, like I said, the supplies of string, yarn, scissors, and that kind of thing. Our struggles could be the weather. Obviously, we won't be able to go outside and gather anything if the weather isn't nice. I'd have to gather things ahead of time, which is fine. We would refrain from going to the store to buy anything, obviously. And if it turns out that we can't be outside because of the weather, we do have additional workspaces that we can bring them inside for, and we'll just have to make sure that we have our supplies on hand before any of that happens. Next slide, please. My week 2, we're going to call Make It Mosaic, and the goal is to use some maybe dried expired foods that we have around the library and at home. We're going to put them together, make little mosaic ornaments to put outside for maybe the birds or the squirrels. If you don't want to bring them outside, that's fine. They can be left inside for enjoyment. And they're just going to make a little mosaic ornament using whether it be colored beans, seeds, rice. They could use stones. I wasn't able to gather anything right now because of the snow, so my ornament is lined with pine cones. Some of the additional supplies we would need would be glue, cardboard, scissors, tweezers, toothpicks, yarn and string for hanging, And if you're going to be using glue and using this outside for a bird or squirrel source, food source, you're going to want to use glue that is nature safe. You can use a simple water and flour paste, or Elmer's glue. White glue is also animal safe. So you could use those things. The planning for me in the prep would be maybe 30 minutes to cut cardboard shapes, punch holes, put all the little components in little separated containers so that they can, get at each one of them without an issue. My budget would be way less than $20. If I did have to go out and buy some dried things, they're readily available in bulk and very inexpensive. I could run into some problems if we have a spill, especially if we're working outside. Especially if we're working outside, we could run into a problem. If we have a spill, then we're not going to be able to gather it up. If we're inside, we can gather it up and reuse that stuff. But that doesn't generally happen too often. And as far as buying things, we don't generally have to buy things. Our employees around are pretty generous with their donations. So a lot of times we'll have a bag of rice or some beans or something that they'll bring in for any other component projects that we're doing. And if I had a lot of people, I could always make the projects a little smaller, if that's an issue, but not generally an issue with that many projects, project materials. Next slide, please. Week 3, we're going to do some nature painting, and we're going to think outside the box with painting with non-traditional things, like without paintbrushes, without sponge brushes. We're going to paint with tools from nature, like plants, sticks, feathers, flowers, rocks, grasses, nuts. And some of the techniques they'll use will be like brush strokes, stamping, rubbing, rolling, hammering, just different things. We have all the tools inside here, whether it be hammering or things to help them roll around in boxes and stuff. My planning and prep would probably be about 30 minutes to make a sample for them so that they can see physically what things could become on a canvas, which is my biggest part of the program would be the budget of $20 to cover the cost of the canvases. If we have a lot of people that want to do it, then I can always get smaller canvases, and we also do get some donations from local businesses to help cover costs of some of those types of things. Again, my struggles would be weather, because we're going to be doing this outside since it's called Mother Earth Monday. And I would have to obviously gather things ahead of time there too as well. Some kids get a little funny with being messy, and this could be a bit of a messy program, but generally it's a lot of fun to do things like this with them. And again, I could just use smaller canvases. If I need more workspace, we can just bring out more tables if needed. Next slide, please. Week 4, we're going to do clay day. And the goal is to have a project that you can keep forever, because a lot of these nature-based programs and projects are kind of biodegradable. They won't last forever and they won't stick around. But clay, when you make a pinch pot or if you're making a flattened clay ornament, it's not only a sensory or tactile activity for them, but it's also something they can cherish, give away, keep forever, admire it when they want. Again, pinch pots or flattened clay, we'll give them some texture using dried flowers, stems, vines, texture surfaces like barks and rocks. Using air dry clay, obviously we're not going to be doing any firing. I also thought afterwards that if we did air dry clay and if they wanted to, we could have a week 2 where they would paint them possibly. My added supplies would be the basics of cutting tools, cookie cutters, textured surfaces, wax paper to work on. Planning and prep is the biggest part of it, and that would probably be just cutting the clay into equal portioned amounts. My budget is just for the clay, $20 to $30, and we have all the tools on hand. Some of the problems could be that the clay needs to be worked to soften, and the kids get a little frustrated with that. So we might maybe make sure that some of the clays are worked ahead of time so that they could jump right into it. And again, we would just make smaller projects or provide more space and tools if needed for the scalability. Next slide, please. Week 5 is potato prints, and that's basically just taking items from your house and turning them into something different. You eat potatoes, you have French fries, but you didn't think about making prints with them, making art with them or greeting cards. And that's basically what it is, because potatoes are from the earth and we make the impressions that impress, I like to say. So knives, cookie cutter, stamp pads, paper towels, baby wipes, scissors, all those things are used for them. I will take about an hour to purchase, wash, and cut the potatoes. I'm going to have some potatoes on hand, pre-cut with different shapes. And my problem could be just using some sharper tools to carve. But for the most part, our parents are pretty involved and they always like to help out. Potatoes are inexpensive, so if I have to buy a lot of them, it's not a big problem at all. Next slide, please. And some of the alternate ideas, if we had to come inside and I didn't have an opportunity to get some of the supplies that we needed from nature, would be to do different things like leaf art. You can buy inexpensive leaves if you had to from a store. You can always cut them out of paper and make leaf art, weaving with looms made out of sticks, rock painting, and wood slices. Thanks for listening. I'm Christine Adams from the Walk-Hill Library. Is there any questions?
There are a couple questions, Christine.
Yes.
We had, can you use regular stamp ink for the potato stamping?
Yes. My thing with potatoes is I do this often, actually. You want to make sure that you blot your potatoes off, get the moisture off of them before you put them in a stamp pad. You might have to do that a few times before you start using them, just to get some of the moisture out of the potato.
And do you have a resource for nature paints?
Nature paints, as far as like paints that you would use that are natural? Is that what you mean?
I am wondering if they were animal friendly or...
Oh, animal friendly paints. Well, you can make animal friendly paints out of, there's milk paints that can be made and different things like that. I had not dove into animal friendly paints because our nature paints program is just going to be something that they put on a canvas that they would probably take home and not necessarily put outside. So I'm not sure if the natural paints would be necessary.
Okay. Thank you so much. There were so many good ideas in your presentation. Lots of inspiration for everybody. Our next presenter is Danielle Wilsey from the Mechanicville District Public Library, and the presentation is Design an Ancient Bone Tool.
Okay, I don't know what. Hi there. Can everybody hear me? Okay, so I've got this here. It's kind of hard to see right now, but we're going to be making little tools. They're going to look like all different kinds of things. My name is Danielle Wilsey. I'm from the Mechanicville District Public Library in Mechanicville, New York. We'll just jump right into my tool, I guess. Next slide, please. All right. So when I think about unearthing a story, the first thing I think of is, what are we going to use to dig with? Okay. So I was thinking, instead of doing dinosaurs or anything, I thought we could just think about tools of the past, archaeologists coming upon tools of the past, and kind of just linking all walks of human life and all the treasures we found along the way, and letting the kids get really hands-on in a really affordable little project we can do with a wide variety of ages. So next slide, please. All right, for my project, I really wanted to make sure that it was inexpensive, because the chances are we're going to have a pretty big group in my class or in my summer program, mostly a lot of little kids and big brothers and sisters. We could probably get up to 25 kids, even though this is a pretty small library. There's a very active family participation. So for me, every supply that I used, I found right at my library. I didn't need to go anywhere and get anything. I used air dry clay and popsicle sticks. Some of these are just optional and add in. And if you can think of other things you might want to add into your project, you're welcome to. Definitely probably have all of this though. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's my budget and my setup time. Of course, yours may vary. But for me, I found that if you do not have air dry clay on hand, I was able to find for $10 5-pound bucket. If you don't have popsicle sticks or paper clips or yarn, I found all of those for very cheap, about $2 a piece. For my group, this would probably come in, well, this would be free, but if I had to buy it all, it would come in well under $20. And for setup, this depends really on how long it's going to take you to grab that stuff out of your cupboards. For me, it's all pretty much in one place. I'm going to take it out and I'm going to communally set it up on the tables beforehand. Grab a couple of dishes of water, and then just give everybody about a 1 inch, just 1 to 2 inch ball of clay about this big, and just see what they can shape from that. Once you have the clay out, that's really the part that takes up the most time. Next slide, please. Here I've provided some examples of tools, and these could be maybe useful to give the children to take a look at and kind of discuss what they are all about. The next slide, you'll see a few more examples. See, I've got all different varieties. I actually got this idea from the University of Alaska Museum, and they just have so many cool different tools that people use, and it'll be really fun to go into with the kids and talk about all of these things and how they were used. Next slide, please. All right. I also thought it would be fun to get the kids really thinking about going into the past and what it was really like for people when they were using their tools, how we might use them, kind of having a little guessing game about what they might think that they were used for, or how they would want to use the tool, etc. And then to keep unearthing a little further, those tools were from thousands and thousands of years ago. Then we found them again, you know, a couple hundred years ago, and now we're talking about them today. It's cool to be able to go through that timeline of all the different uses of the tool over the years. Next slide, please. All right, so here's our process. Very easy. We're going to put out some paper. We're going to do a little planning. We're going to start kneading and getting it into shape. And once we let it dry, I thought it could be cool to take these tools and kind of segue them into another program where we can put them to the test, and you know, maybe put out some sand, some soil, anything that we can just really dig. Even shredded paper would probably work okay, and we could just start digging, put in any kind of little treasure you have lying around, and see how these tools we've made hold up. Next slide. All right, and then finally I decided that it would be fun to kind of look into books we have within our system and maybe put together a display for everybody to enjoy taking home, books about archaeology and paleontology. And that's it. That's my program. Making a bone tool and digging it up. Thank you.
That's such a great idea. I love the connections to archaeology and taking a little bit of a different perspective on the summer reading theme. And also the idea of at the end having people, you know, practice digging through different materials and seeing how their tools work. What a great way to apply the craft right then and there to the project.
Well, like I said, we have Saturday.
Thank you.
Saturday, April 11th.
Did you say what ages you were planning to do
Oh,
this
for me, this is going to be pretty much all ages. I'm imagining we'll probably get kids as young as 3 to 4 years old and kids all the way up to their early teens for our personal library. But it would really be fine. Anyone who doesn't know how to build a tool yet, they can still have fun playing with clay, etc.
Absolutely. We do have somebody asking if you're going to do this over 2 days, like a building day and a digging day, or all at once.
I think we're going to do a building day. We'll let it dry, come back the following week, where we do a Thursday program where we have people come and do Create Club and things like that. So we could have them put them to the test. I do not anticipate them being super strong, but that's okay because ancient tools are probably delicate at this point, and we can discuss that too.
Great. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Oh, we did have one last question.
Sure.
Have you had a chance yet to test how the tools hold up?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think they're going to be super duper strong. They might be a bit crumbly, but you know, sometimes ancient artifacts can be pretty delicate. So we're going to give it a go.
All right. And we are running toward the end of this first hour, or excuse me, our second hour. Our final presenter is James Richardson from the Huntington Public Library. And we're going to talk now about Jurassic Gnome Gardens and prehistoric plants.
Hello. Okay, so my name is James Richardson from the Huntington Public Library. As you said, I'll be talking about Jurassic Gnome Gardens and prehistoric plants. All these programs are suitable. Both of these programs are suitable for grades 3 to 6. So we'll start with the next slide. Okay, Jurassic Gnome Gardens, grades 3 to 6. Here we go. So a little background. Nope, that's fine. You can switch it if you want. That's fine. That's a finished product. So a little background, this is a version of a program we hosted in November called Mini Fall Gardens, Gnomes, Turkeys, and Mayhem. And the description for that was arrange and fill a mini fall garden, the centerpiece masterpiece for any Thanksgiving table, or add a little mischief to your bookshelves. Ran approximately 45 minutes, and that we did for grades 4 to 6 on a Tuesday night, and it was a big hit. We had lots of kids, and they all wanted something else like this. So obviously gnome gardens are just a variation of the fairy gardens, and we're focusing on dinosaurs, so that's how this evolved. So if you've ever hosted a fairy garden program, you'll be right at home, and if not, consider this just a friendly primer. Next slide, please. Okay, so your tween patrons will be compiling a Jurassic gnome garden. Along the way, they'll get to consider what colors, textures, and items to add with the goal of becoming a little more familiar with prehistoric miscellanea. On the screen is the finished product, a Jurassic gnome garden I compiled. From the distance, once you get these slides, you can zoom in and see what's going on. The reason I showed you these dragonflies on the other slide was just because they like stick out, but they really add depth and something extra special to it. So let's see, what slide are we on? So here is a little closer. You can zoom in on some of the details and get an idea of what's going on. What's the story here? Well, you see our gnomes are having a chat with what look like a couple of pet dinosaurs. Maybe they're talking about the results of the Super Bowl, or maybe they're like, just having a little chat. You see they're protected from some more vicious-looking dinosaurs and wasteland across the way by a river of lava. If you want to go to the next slide, we'll break down some of the details, you see. So the details, okay, so what's that T-Rex got in his mouth? A bone? Maybe he was just playing fetch and got caught up on the other side. So these are the elements that make your Jurassic gnome garden. We'll go into them in detail. But these little details are what help your patrons craft the story. When we did the fall program, what the tweens were doing was like building stories as they're filling up their mini gnome garden. So we're just helping them provide that like resource and sort of playground to be inquisitive and along those lines. Next slide, please. We'll go into the elements. So this is a broad view of items you may wish to include in your dinosaur-themed garden. I say in the very least, you will need some type of container. In this case, we use these colorful plastic bowls. A medium. I like working with sand for a few reasons I can go over later. Gnomes or fairies or both, although arguably you could leave them out also if you're on a tight budget. Dinosaurs, obviously, if it's dinosaur-themed. And then other little elements such as fake plants or stones. Those are the bare minimum 4 items you would need to like get this program off the ground. But there are obviously many items that really kind of pull the whole thing together. So I've also included fake volcanoes, resin skulls of prehistoric animals, prehistoric mammal figurines, the dragonflies on dowels, frondy prehistoric looking plant stickers, dyed mosses. 2 other big things I will advocate for. The air dry clay can be super useful for some budgets, so patrons can make their own garden extras and then they can paint them at a different time. I have a few next to me here where you can like make, dinosaur skulls. You can make a meteorite, and then they paint them on their own time. Circular wooden slices are a great focal point and help kind of fill out the program. Plus it gives patrons a chance to theme their garden. So if you were running this, if you were doing this for like an hour program, you could have them work for 5 to 10 minutes on this. This one I came up with for the gnome park. I didn't put it in the final product, but if you want to switch to the next slide, please. And then a few things you're going to want to consider when you're purchasing the items. Do you want to go cute or realistic? Are you providing to make your gardens more on the whimsy side? Or will they present as a more of an educational diorama? I stick with whimsy. I like, Haley Brown mentioned most important part is fun. I like the teens to have fun and then they come up with different things along the ways. Go ahead. So next slide, please. Also, do you have a makerspace? Are there elements you can craft to make your garden stand out as unique or from other fairy gardens they might have seen? We were able to make these little individual what do you call them? They're like laser cut acrylic pieces of like different fossils. It doesn't come up right on the camera, but you'll see. And that just adds like a different flair, something else, something new. Next slide, please. And so, okay, and extras. So this is going to come into how much you want to spend and how many supplies you already have. While I provide a QR code with Amazon links, mostly Amazon links to the items you've seen, it's difficult to pin down a cost for this type of program. I guarantee you can get it to just under $10 per patron with the bare basics, and if it's like between 15 to 20 patrons. This is one of those programs that the more you scale and the more supplies you already have, the cost can come down significantly if you run like a second program later on in the year with just adding a few extra things to it. But you can absolutely do this program for about under $10 per patron, about 15 patrons. Next slide, please. All right, so this is just the real basics. The only thing I was responsible for insofar as helping the students out was pouring in the sand. You're going to want to do that first. You get the bowl, they pick out the bowl, you pour in the sand, and then they can build with the items you provide. Let's see. If you do incorporate the wood slices, like I said, I would have them do it first because they sort of can build around that as a focal point. And the air dry clay that I showed you, that is good as they're building it because they might be like, oh, I could use a cave or I could use a bridge across this thing, and then they build it as I bring. Remember, they're telling a story while they're building. And they will tell you the story, and they will tell everyone sitting next to them. Next slide, please. Oh, so these are just a few examples from our Gnomes Turkey and Mayhem program. So no two are alike, and as you can see, they use those wood slices as the focal point. Some of the air dry pieces included a little well someone made. They had the, looks like a log and a rainbow, things that we didn't provide for them. For dinosaurs, you can also run a slideshow with dino facts or ask them dino trivia while they're crafting if they want to learn, hit that educational angle. But I bet they'll know more about dinosaurs than most of us will. Next. Thank you. Okay, prehistoric plants. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, this is one of my favorite Venus flytraps. Let me go way back. We've been running our Monster Plants program during the summer for years. Patrons get to choose a Venus flytrap, decorate a planter, then they transfer the plant to the planter. And while they're doing that, they learn about some fun facts about Venus flytraps and how to take care of them. Prehistoric Plants is just the rebranding of that program. It's always a big hit with the patrons, and if you're unfamiliar with how to plant or care for a Venus flytrap, you're going to learn it here, and it's super easy. Next slide, please. Oh, okay. So we've been ordering from an online greenhouse specializing in carnivorous plants called bug-biting plants for years now, although I recommend always checking with local nurseries if you're going to. To the left, I believe, was a year where we did 2 to 3 year old plants. They sell like all different age groups, different sizes. The center is where I would transfer the smaller plants into cups to keep them alive for a few days. Last year, we bought the little pot plants, and they come like ready to be transferred. They cost more, but they're definitely like a lot easier, and they're like these fully grown plants. So the kids have a lot of fun sort of seeing those out the box. Okay, next slide. I know we're running out of time. Oh, again, this is how the bigger plants come in a box with styrofoam, and then you just turn them over and let them live for a couple days. I do try to time it. As far as prep, I try to time it so that they have a couple of days to just sort of breathe, and you can see which plants are going to make it, which might need a little more water ahead of time before the program shows. But that's them all just chilling out on my windowsill. It looks like a lot of work. It's just very, very easy, believe it or not. Next slide, please. All right, so the elements. The plants, obviously, you're going to need a planter, a plant medium. So for Venus flytraps, you only have to use long fiber sphagnum moss. Easy as that. You can get it at Home Depot. You can get it at your local greenhouse. You can use stones at the bottom for drainage, but I found that with a decent planter, you don't need to. The planter I included in this link is great. It's got a good texture. It takes markers well, paint if they want to paint the outside. And the program's really easy. They choose a plant, one that speaks to them. Usually invite them to name their plant. They spend 5 to 10 minutes decorating their cup. Then we transfer the plant. Everything's like covered in like our plastic paper over the tables. And that's the timer. So I just want to make sure. And they have a good time. Now, I don't actually have, if you want to go to the next slide, this is a QR code with a video clip montage or a social media person put together. So you'll actually see the program in effect, patrons decorating their pots, playing their Venus flytrap, and generally just having a good time. all to the song of Little Shop of Horrors, of course. And then I do actually have one of the plants here with me that had survived and thrived since, in fact, you can't see it here, but this is the middle. It's actually sending up a flower. So that'll probably even make it to the next one. And next slide. Okay, so I'm saying thank you, but of course, there's probably a lot of questions or anything I can address right now. That was like a lot to throw at you. And I'll take them now. Sorry.
So we do have a question about the pots that you used, or the bowls that you used rather, for the
Yes.
gnome gardens. Just like what size were they?
Oh, I can tell you. In fact, they were, let's see, I have them right here. Home stack bowls. They were, let's see, 1.8 liters. I think they were about 6 inches across. No, sorry. We actually got the medium pack. So those were approximately 10 inches wide.
Okay. And in a like vein, someone is wondering about how big the pots were for the 4-inch planters.
Yeah, okay. Those were, I think they call those like a medium pot. I do have the link for those actually as well. They call them 4-inch, so they were like 4-inch wide. And those are good for any size that you choose to go with the Venus flytraps.
Okay, great, thank you. About how much do you pay per Venus flytrap?
Okay, so the Venus flytrap program can get very expensive, and that's one, unfortunately, that doesn't scale up. The more you buy, the bigger group you offer, the more it's going to cost. What was the specific cost they were looking for? The amount of the plants?
How much per Venus flytrap plant?
So that can be tricky. The online place that we go to for the small baby plants, those go for like $3 to $4 each. And then we buy them by how many program people go. So if we're going to have a program at 15, we'll buy 20 just in case a couple come in. Those can be really interesting too, because kids have never seen like baby Venus flytraps, and they're exactly like they're just miniature Venus flytraps. But getting the bigger ones that came in big, they can go for about $9 each. Again, this is online and you have to buy them in bulk.
Okay.
But if you ask around locally, yeah, you'll find deals.
Great. Someone is wondering if you can share your links for your supply list.
Absolutely. It is, I have it and I will forward it to whoever's going to get all of them. Oh, no, wait, no, I'm sorry. If you click through the next slide. Boom, there you go. So that's Google Doc. It's open to everybody. And of course, if anybody has questions, they can please email me. I'll help you figure out a budget for what you're doing, because both of these programs are so much fun and the kids really love them. And once you do, especially something like Venus flytraps can sound like intimidating, but they're very easy. I'll walk you through it. It's so much fun.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, James.
Thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you to all of our second hour presenters. We are at the end of our second hour. We're going to take a quick break and we'll see you back here in a few minutes. Thanks.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. I am Mary Fellows from Upper Hudson Library System. I am your third hour MC, and while we're waiting to get the slides up here and going on, I am going to just, all right, I was going to share jokes, but you know, we're like moving right into it. So I will just ask you what a T-Rex's least favorite exercise is, if you put that in chat. And it is push-ups. All righty. So if you're just joining us, welcome. We're glad you're here. Please remember to change your screen name to your first and last name for CE purposes so we can get you the credit that you need for that. If you are asking questions in the chat, please start with the letter Q so that our team behind the scenes can scoop up those questions for us and we can have our presenters answer them. Presenters, remember to say next slide, and our background team will advance those slides for you. And Haley, our timekeeper, will be letting you know when we get to the end of the time. So let us get started on this third hour. We have a DINO-MITE hour coming up for you. It is one that starts with Brianne Coca, who will share her DINO-MITE Eggs program. Brianne is from the Emma Clark Library and the Smithtown Library. So Brianne, over to you.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So good morning. I have my information on the slide. If you have any questions later on, feel free to email me and we'll just jump right in. Next slide. So I got my inspiration from those like plaster of Paris eggs that the kids all like bashing up. And then I found some recipes that I've kind of finagled. Next slide. So the goal of the program is honestly to get messy and have fun. If you need some more like goal orientations, it's they're gonna scoop and measure, follow directions, and then the actual shaping of the eggs and the mixing could be fine motor skills. Next slide. So this is the recipe that I've kind of finagled to work the best. It's all stuff you should kind of have: flour, coffee, sand, salt, and half a cup of water. Most likely it'll be less. And then these are just the steps. Ultimately, the size of the eggs you want the kids to make is like the size of a Hot Wheel car. And you can put in the plastic dinosaurs so that it will, they could break it apart and find them. The key is that it will need at least 3 days to dry. Next slide. So this is just photos of the steps I did. I just used a popsicle stick to mix. You want it to get to be like a cookie dough texture, like not too crumbly, but not like soup either. To test, you would put a divot, you make like a little ball, stick a thing. As long as it holds the shape, then you're good to go. You can place the whatever, I used buttons in this case, but you can place them inside and then you take another little bit and cover on top, kind of squeeze it a little bit, not too tightly. You don't want it to start like popping out. And you don't want the eggs to be bigger than their hands. It'll take too long to dry out. Next slide. So I planned for about an hour total, counting, going through the recipes and trying to figure out how to get it and where to get the free coffee grounds. Library cafes, a lot of us have them. They have coffee grounds. Starbucks has a program where they will give you like bags of the used coffee grounds. And you could go to like the local coffee shops and stuff too. They will be more than willing to also give it to you. You don't need to use used coffee grounds. It's just free. And then the prep is if you want to make eggs to give the kids to break apart, I would start a week or so beforehand. It only takes a couple of minutes to make the eggs, but if you're making a bunch of eggs, you'll need a lot more time. And you'll also want to find a space that's big enough to separate the eggs enough. If they're close together, they'll take longer to dry as well. So those were just the biggest struggles, was finding a place to do all of it and then where I could store everything to dry. Next slide. So this is the math. If I was doing it for about 20 kids, the top half would be the total amount you would need. And the budget is based on Amazon prices and Walmart prices from January 27th. And you can also do it like, you can get the sand from the beach. It's illegal if you take a large amount, so don't get caught. And then other things, you could always like ask for donations, see if anybody's got stuff laying around. Next slide. And then this is the adaptability. It's pretty easy to scale it up and scale it down for larger or smaller groups. It's a 2-to-1, so double or divide. And then you don't have to use little dinosaurs. You could use anything you have in your program, like closets. You also, if you don't want to get bags to give them home, to stretch out the time too, if you want to make it longer, they could make cardstock boxes pretty easily and they decorate it. If you're doing it with younger kids, they can totally capable, but I would have some team volunteers or have the caregivers stay just to make sure that nobody's putting anything where that's not supposed to be. It's a great outdoor activity, but you can do it inside. Also, nothing stains. Everything's very easy to vacuum back up. And it's also a good station for like a bigger dinosaur event. And then in the bottom corner, I just have the tag I would attach to the bag or the box to remind them that they need to leave it to dry for a little bit. And then I'm sure what everybody's waiting for is I have a dinosaur egg that I made. I have just like a Play-Doh tool. And then there's some like cracks. And you just pop it in and then it'll come right out very easily. I actually did this egg without the sand to see if that would work. And it did work very well. So you can also omit the sand, keep the recipe the same otherwise. And it does store very well. This was made January 27th, and it's still all like good to go. Or you can like make the egg with it. So you can make it pretty far in advance as well. All right. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Brianne, it looks like your camera actually wasn't on to show us the egg.
Oh no. Oh, that's so small.
But you know, the best part is we have great imaginations in this field, so we can totally imagine that egg. So thank you so much, Brianne. That just sounds like a very fun program. You could just feel the tactile nature of that program with those coffee grounds. I loved the idea of going to your local coffee shop for a new for used grounds. And I was thinking too, if your library is close to a coffee shop, you know, maybe you could bring the eggs there for the great unveiling, and it could be, you know, a nice business connection in your community. Take some photos, you know, they get a little bit of something back as well. So, you know,
definitely.
Yeah, what a clever idea. We had a question about the used coffee grounds, but you had covered that. So thank you very much for sharing that, Brianna. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Robert McGrory with us, and Robert is sharing a program that has a great title. It's called Put in a Good Word. I'm really curious about this one. So, Robert, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Mary, and thank you, fellow librarians. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so this program is called Put in a Good Word. Next slide, please. Okay, that's just my contact information. Next. So yeah, the program is called Put in a Good Word, and it is basically, it's wordless picture books. And next slide. Put in a good word. Don't mind, I'm going to read off my notes. It's basically putting words where there aren't any. It's a group effort. It's a little bit similar to the sort of like the telephone game where we write a story, we piece it together. And it's to go with the illustrations. Now, this isn't to suggest that just because there are no words, that there's no story. In fact, quite the opposite. Next slide, please. This was just a quote I tracked down in one of the articles I was reading about them. You know, of course, most children can pick up a copy of books such as Mr. Wisner's Flotsam or Bill Thompson's Chalk and understand exactly what's going on. In fact, I think any reader of Chalk would be reading it and be afraid if anyone's read it before, would be a little bit scared about these kids getting eaten by a dinosaur, diving to Flotsam by Wisner, and certainly wish we could be transported and spirited away into an underground kingdom, underwater kingdom. Next slide, please. What this program does is there's a lot of advantages to it. And not only is it fun, but we are essentially unearthing a story. It helps children that speak another language be a little less apprehensive. One of the articles I was reading was indicating how when sharing stories with the rest of a classroom situation, children who don't speak the language or might be struggling with it would be a little apprehensive. about reading the words on the page. This gives children, no matter what language they speak, the opportunity to come up with their own words and not be, not be as shy. It definitely helps with empowerment and it encourages teamwork because the program, when we did it, we did this once back in the spring, and it really encourages teamwork. They're all coming together and piecing this story together. Next slide, please. Another advantages of the program is this was one thing that really stuck out was the parent-child dynamic change. When reading stories to children who are just learning how to read, there's a hierarchy to it. And this kind of puts that away. We don't have the storyteller and listener. Again, we have the teamwork. And it's a callback to the old traditions of oral storytelling, giving different diverse viewpoints, not just culturally diverse, but just a diversity of ideas. Next slide, please. The planning and preparation of it, it basically costs nothing. We have plenty of wordless picture books on hand already. It can be a little bit time consuming with scanning all the individual pages. Scanners sometimes have a mind of their own. But I was able to put it right up on a screen and we just kind of all tag along. Now, if somebody's in a library system that does not have the technology, it could certainly be done just holding up the book. You don't even need the technology, but it is great to have. Next slide, please. Sounds interesting. How about an example? Okay. I'm going to have to kind of cut this a little bit short. I was going to read off some of the dialogue I had kind of come up with already, but I see where the clock is ticking. So the example here is That Neighbor Kid by Daniel Miyares. Miyares, I don't know if I'm saying it wrong. Next slide, please. So I'll just read a little bit of it. Summer had just begun, and although she should be happy, Molly was down in the dumps. It had only been a week since her best friend Olivia from next door had moved halfway across the country. And one afternoon, a big truck parked in front of Olivia's old house. Molly watched while not trying to cry too much, as men carried giant boxes and furniture out of the house and into the house, off the truck and into the house. Several hours later, Molly looked out her window and saw a little boy just about her age. He was reading a book in his new backyard underneath the old oak tree. Molly said to herself, maybe this summer won't be so boring after all. Next slide. Being a little bit shy, Molly watched from behind the fence. In the morning, he was hanging from the branch of that old oak. Had it not been for the book he was reading, he might have been mistaken for a monkey. Next slide. Just after lunch, Molly went back to the fence. And this time, the new kid wasn't reading. He was, wait a second, Molly thought. Why is he taking the fence apart? All right, I think we're going to skip. If we could skip to the next one, and then maybe the next one. I just want to make sure I stay within the time constraints. Well then, Molly said, unfolding the big paper. Between the two of us, I bet we could get this finished in no time. Great, Billy grinned. Let's get to work. And so they measured, sawed, hammered, measured again, sawed again, hammered again. Next slide. At the end of the day, they were exhausted, but their work was finally done. Next slide. Thanks for your help, Molly, Billy said. Couldn't have done it without you. Well, I couldn't have done it without you, Billy. Next slide. And after bed, Billy and Molly waved goodnight. And maybe tomorrow they'd be building something new. But for now, they had built the best thing of all, a new friendship. Next slide. Okay, I see my time is up. So I just want to say, as far as how did the program go, I didn't get the response I had hoped. We had 16 spots, 8 kids registered, and only 4 came. The bright spot to it is, next slide. We are going to do it again because even though we had such a small response, the children who did come had a wonderful time. And maybe about a month ago, I ran into one of these parents again, and I said, "You remember the Put in a Good Word program? Well, we're going to do it again." And I was explaining how it ties in with this theme of unearthing stories. So the mom was very excited, the child was excited. So I figured if one is excited, you could probably get a few more in there, and we're going to give it another go. And that is basically it. So if you have any questions, I re-put my contact information.
Thank you so much, Robert. That's a very interesting program, and it's not always about the numbers, right? So,
Exactly.
yeah. So I appreciate what you shared with us. In the interest of time, I saw we have a couple of questions in chat. I'm going to ask you to respond to those in chat, if you would.
Sure.
And we are going to go on to our next presenter. Again, Robert, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we are now welcoming Monica Williams. She has all kinds of interesting painting projects to share with us. So Monica, take it away.
Hi, everybody. My name is Monica Williams. I'm one of the children's librarians at the Port Jefferson Free Library in Port Jefferson, New York. And let's talk about why painting really is dynamite. Next slide, please. Okay, it's important when you're doing painting to try to contain the mess and set yourself up for success. So make sure you cover all your work surfaces. I personally like plastic tablecloths. We also give out plastic aprons, even though I do note in my descriptions that we will be painting. Please dress for mess. And sometimes we do have friends come with smocks. Sometimes we don't. Make sure you have paper towels and wipes available. Our programming space in our activity room has a sink, so that's super helpful. We have these great spill-proof paint cups. They look kind of like a cupcake cup, but they are actually lined with like a heavier lining so it does not come out. And also they are really difficult to tip over, which makes it super easy. And if anyone's concerned about, this is what the size of the napkin, the aprons look like. So it's almost like a pack of napkins. So you can pretty much store them anywhere. And then I usually put out the paint once I have everyone in the room with me. And I'll start by saying, when we're coming in, wait for me to hand out the paint. I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, and then we will start painting together. And that really does help it. And especially with little kids, they usually have an adult present with them, so they'll kind of help wrangle them and keep them out of the paint until they're ready. So, and the foil trays are good for controlling, like if you have smaller pieces of art, to put them in those, and then they can take them with them and then leave them someplace safe to dry before they pick them up and take them home. I literally just did one of my programs about an hour before this presentation. So all of this is super fresh in my mind, and these are all the things I used. Next slide, please. So this is what I would consider like a basic setup. You have your paper towels, your wipes, your water if you need it, the paint cups, the paint brushes, and it just kind of helps control everything. Everyone gets the same setup, so there's no issues with that, and it helps. Next slide, please. These are some of my favorite art supplies, and I will reference all of them in this presentation. One of my absolute favorite things are the quick sticks. If you're not familiar with them, they're a tempera paint stick. They literally look just like a glue stick. You uncap them just like a glue stick, and you just crank it up and apply it to your artwork. The illustration I picked here is a class pack, and what I love about quick sticks is you can actually buy individual colors. So if you happen to use up a lot of red, you can just buy a whole new box of red ones and replace them. You do not have to buy another class pack. I love these foam brushes. They're great for water. Crayola markers can become paint, and I'll explain that a little further along. And then also my absolute favorite brand of paint is the Crayola Artista 2 washable paint. It's super effective, really good colors, and same thing, you can always buy an extra color in it. I'm personally about quality over quantity when it comes to supplies, because in a sense, it will pay for itself down the line. Next slide, please. So let's talk about paper. If you haven't heard of it, Bleeding tissue paper is basically watercolor paint in tissue paper form. It's one of my absolute favorite supplies. I love it. I use it as much as I can possibly use it. I use it in some of our take and makes that go home with people. Watercolor paper is a great thing to have. However, it might be out of some people's price ranges. If you can't have space for it or the funds for it, substituting good quality cardstock white will work just as well. And my personal favorite is the True Ray Sulfite construction paper. This is the best construction paper. I found out about it from art teachers I follow on Instagram. It is fantastic. It holds up to pretty much anything and everything, including paint. So I can't recommend it enough. And it comes in a bazillion colors too. So these are some of my favorite things. But as I said, watercolor paint doesn't work out. Cardstock will be just fine for a substitute. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is actually literally the program I did this morning. I didn't use dinosaurs because we're not in summer reading yet. What we call it Paint Without Paintbrushes, which is a process art program for our littlest artists. I start at age 2. They're past the point where they're going to try to eat the paint. And usually what I'll do is I'll set up a station with each dinosaur shape. So I just did one station for the purposes of this demo, but I would set it up at different ones, and each station will have a different painting supply. So one will have Q-tips, maybe the other one will have the paper rolls, maybe one will have the bubble wrap, and at each station there'll be different colors. And one of the things I like to remind everybody is be careful with your color choices, especially with little people's, because there is a tendency to smush them all together and get something that will not be super attractive. So think in terms of like color families, same tones. For this one, I just did metallic green and bright green to go with my green dino, just to kind of keep it in the theme. But you can switch it up to anything you would like. And there's a list of some of the suggested things that you can use, and there's always more you can add to it. Look through your cabinets and see what you can find that would make a cool paintbrush. Next slide, please. This is the Quick Sticks in action. These are my Quick Sticks cardboard dino art. And what I basically did was I cut out a dinosaur out of cardboard. This is actually the liners from our Ingram book boxes. So if ask your technical processing department to save them for you. It gives you really nice, good, clean cardboard, and you're paying for it anyway when you're buying the book, so why not? And then once again, I picked kind of like inspired by the CSLP blues and greens theme. That was what I went with, and I started to do stripes working my way around the body of the dinosaur, and this was the finished product. Now you can put a hole in it and make a string, or you can do all kinds of fun things with these, use them as decorations. You can cut them out using a Cricut as long as you have the right blade in, or you can use what I call the prehistoric Cricut, also known as the Ellison or the AccuCut die. If you have the dinosaur shapes, you can technically hand cut them out, but that's kind of mean on your hands, so try not to do that to yourselves. Okay, next slide, please. And this is one of my favorite art techniques. Every time I bring this out, kids love it. This is the marker paint tie-dye dinosaurs. And basically what I did was I just Googled up a dinosaur coloring page, a simple one. If you have someone who can draw them and teach the kids how to draw them, that's a great way to kind of add some complexity to it. And what you do is you color on the foil using your washable markers. So you can see I used the same Crayola markers. They cover really well. And then what I did was I painted on the paper with the foam brushes. And you want your paper to look shiny, but it shouldn't be soggy. If it's starting to disintegrate, that means you added too much water. And then once the paper is wet enough, flip the foil with the marker side down onto the page, smooth it over, and you push the marker into the water, and you see your reveal. This one works best with like a simple pattern, so try to think of stripes or blocks. If you try to do anything too complicated, the water kind of washes it away. So stay away from that because you don't want anybody who's a disappointed artist. Next slide, please. And then these were two variations I came up with for that theme. If you'd like, you can do a watercolor resist with it, and then you add the markers, and then also after or before, you can use permanent markers to do designs and patterns on your dinosaur. Next slide, please. And this is, last but not least, our tissue paper paint dinosaur. So this is that bleeding tissue paper I mentioned in action. And what I usually do is I cut it up into small square shapes, and then I will lay them on top of the dinosaur cutout, add water, let it sit. Then you can add some more water, and basically the color will come out of the tissue paper until the tissue is white. And you can see there's a couple of spots where I left it where you can still see some of the white of the paper showing through. You can always go back and re-wet the tissue paper and cover those. And in this case, I use the quick sticks to create a background for it for a little something else to add to it. Last slide, next slide, please. And just a reminder, I know I'm done. If any of these are new materials for you, to do a test run, try them out, make sure you're comfortable with it, you know how they work. And whenever you plan, just make sure you take notes and try to have some fun. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. I'm always happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica. What clever ideas and great slide backgrounds too. I was thinking that if you did this in your library for a first library program, did the quick sticks cardboard dinosaur, the marker tie-dye, the kids could make two, and they could leave one at the library for you to decorate your library. That might be a quick decor idea and a program as well. So have you done that ever? Have you displayed them in the library?
We've done displays for last year's. We actually handed out mini canvases. The adult patrons got theirs to take home, but the kids had like a whole art station set up. But this is definitely something we would consider doing as a decoration thing too. And yeah, I did present that at another meeting too. So
wonderful. We do have a couple of questions. Is this a once a week program or is this a one-timer with stations?
I usually try to do it like once a programming cycle or maybe once a month because we usually plan our programs in 2-month blocks. So this morning's program I did with the Paint Without Paintbrushes was We Heart Art. So I had all different construction paper heart cutouts with the different painting tools for them. So it's really what works for your library and your schedule. They're, very flexible.
Makes sense. Someone asked, how long does it take for the tissue paper to dry?
It kind of varies depending upon the weather and the humidity. If it seems to be taking a little too long, what you can do is actually get a hairdryer out and just give it a quick blow dry, and that will take care of any problem. But usually when I'm doing something like this, I would have them do that part first, so there's the maximum amount of time to dry, and then create their backgrounds. And then if we have to, we'll give it a quick blow dry.
Great. And then you just peel the tissue paper off, and that bleeding tissue paper is a thing, right? It's like a special kind of tissue paper. All
right. It's a special art supply. And I've heard of the $1.25 tree tissue paper works for this, but I've never tried it. I've only used this kind because I know this works and it hasn't failed me yet. So.
Wonderful. Monica, thank you so much for all these great ideas. Really appreciate you sharing them with us today.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on now. I love the idea of a dinosaur T-Rex tea party because just the contrast between these huge T-Rexes and the dainty tea things is just compelling in and of itself. So we have Jessica Mudano from the Smithtown Library. Jessica, it's you. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? My name is Jessica. I'm a children's librarian from the Smithtown Library on Long Island, and today I'm here to talk about my T-Rex Tea Party program. Next slide, please. So starting with an overview of the program, my newsletter description is at the top there. This is a story time for ages 3 to 5 years with the children's parents and caregivers. For the program, I use a typical preschool storytime setup with rugs, craft tables, and a table at the front used as a snack station. And for this program, I typically register 20 children. Next slide, please. So of course we begin with our story time. This is a pretty straightforward story time, beginning with our hello song, of course. Then we move into our stories, which I've listed some that I've used in the past there. They focus on dinosaurs, particularly polite dinosaurs, or dinosaurs practicing their manners to kind of fit the theme. And sprinkled throughout are some songs, which include We Are the Dinosaurs by Laurie Berkner, and If You're a Dino and You Know It, which is a spin on If You're Happy and You Know It, rewritten to fit the theme. Next slide, please. Next, we move along into a game of Dino Says, which is Simon Says, but the polite dinosaur version. So this is how we start to practice our manners before our tea party. I've included some sample prompts on this slide that I typically use, but there are a ton that you could do to fit the theme, and you can change it up as you go. Next slide, please. Moving right along into our snacks and tea time, which again, I usually set up in the front of the room. I have the snacks ready to go, and I count on the grown-ups to just kind of corral the kids until snack time. I like to stick to prepackaged snacks such as pretzels, cookies, and goldfish. And then our tea is also poured at this time, so I don't pour it until after the game and the story time. And our tea is apple juice served in paper teacups. I also like to have a little menu displayed of the snack choices, and I like to name the snacks to fit the theme. So this was the menu that I used the last time around that I held this program. Next slide, please. So these are our crafts that we dive into as we're enjoying our snacks. We have a dino teapot craft, which is just a paper plate with cardstock teapot pieces decorated with crayons, gems, and stickers. The preschool kids really enjoy just kind of personalizing their crafts, so they go all out with all the stock supplies that we already have on hand. And then we have our Dino Crown Craft, which is also printed on cardstock and just decorated with stock materials that I usually already have in my department. And then as supplements, I like to have coloring pages as well as crayons and dino sticker scenes. Next slide, please. So for the cost, most of the budget is spent on the snacks, which I spend approximately $22 on. I like to have 2 types of pre-packaged snacks and 20 of each to give kids an option and account for siblings. I also buy a 64-ounce bottle of apple juice and find that that's enough for 20 kids. I like to splurge on the paper teacups and plates, which are a little pricier at about $10. But I feel that it really adds to the tea party vibe and kids really enjoy them. Below are also some optional supplies accounted for, such as a fringe backdrop for photos and the dino sticker scenes. So the total cost is typically around $45. Lastly, I rely on stock supplies already had in my department, and I create some decor and signage with the Cricut and Canva. Next slide, please. I've linked some of the printable materials I've created and used in the past in case you're interested in recreating this program at your library, so you can access those on this slide. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. There's my contact info if you have any questions, but if there's time, I can take some now too.
Thank you, Jessica. What a sweet and fun idea. I love those paper plates and cups, having never seen those. We do have a couple of questions. So just to confirm, was this for ages 3 to 5, or what was your age?
Correct. Yes,
Yeah.
this was ages 3 to 5 with parents and caregivers.
And do the kids get dressed up for the tea, or do they wear costumes?
Yeah,
Or
I haven't advertised that, but that's a really good idea. So maybe I'll add that spin on it this time around. I really like that.
and if they do, you're going to have to also.
Oh, of course. I'll have to start looking now.
Right, that'll be the fun of it. All right. Thank you. very much for sharing
Thank
that.
you.
That was a really fun program and easily replicable. That's
Thanks so
great.
much.
Okay, so we are going to move on now to another kind of food-related one, a Dino Play Cafe. Eileen Madden from the Oceanside Library is going to share this. So let's find out how to play like a dinosaur. Eileen, it's all up to you here.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Sorry, I don't really have a great voice today. It must be the weather. My name is Eileen Madden. I'm a children's librarian at Oceanside Library. And I usually do this program for DINO-Vember, but I figured I'll incorporate it in this summer's summer reading program. Next slide, please. Usually I do a sensory-based program for ages 3 to 5, but I see that Laura Markowitz covered that, so mine is going to rely on the older children that I'm going to talk about right now. So it's roaring fun for ages 3 to 7, and we usually include a snack because the kids come in after school. We usually do about 6 programs daily for children at Oceanside Library, averaging around 20 to 25 children at each program. So we do see a hefty amount of people coming in each day, and we are looking forward to summer and serving that population as well. Next slide. Some of the dinosaur games easily found on Pinterest or any teacher pay teachers. And we have the matching dino game, Spot the Dino, and a little Spot the Difference dino sheet. Easily printed out, basically no cost. Next slide. This is a Triceratops game, which I found also on Pinterest. I made it myself. I used party hats for the little horns on the little Triceratops. This builds the hand and eye coordination, and the kids really enjoy it. Next slide. Dino Play-Doh, basically getting the shapes off online, and they like to match the colors and make the shapes, and it really helps with their fine motor skills as well. Next slide. This was really cute, the Build a T-Rex. The little ones had a little trouble with their scissor cutting skills, but we're working on that. Just found this online. They love coloring the different shapes and making their own creations. Next slide, please. Dino Hopscotch. I cut these out on the Cricut and we kind of rearranged them. One year I just did it as a lead-in, as a welcome to the room. But then the next year people started hopping on them, so I figured I'll make it into Dino Hopscotch. Next slide, please. Pin the tail on the T-Rex. This is not my picture, but we did similar, and I made a little pocket with the tails, and they really enjoy doing this. Sometimes I might have a little winner basket with tiny dinosaurs in it, that if somebody gets it exactly on the spot, they'll win. So they all try, and they also cheat, but that's okay. Next slide, please. Okay, this one I got online on Amazon, and it's for the older kids, and it was cute. We did it in this back of the room if they wanted to work with their parents, and we did a little tester trivia about dinosaurs. And believe it or not, even the little ones knew all of their dinosaurs, because who doesn't love dinosaurs, right? Next slide, please. And this I saw when it was the Kentucky Derby. People were using as like horse races. It's rolls of toilet paper. You put the dinosaur on the end, and each participant gets a roll of toilet paper, and they roll up, and it's a little dinosaur race, hoping that you don't break your toilet paper roll and leave that dinosaur in the dust. Next slide. Okay, so I use paper towel rolls a lot. I am a very thrifty librarian, so I have a whole bag of paper towel rolls, and this is what I came up with for this year. I have not done it yet, but I figured this is something that I'd like to do. And you just follow the picture along with the model. Next slide, please. Fossil fun. They like to do the footprints or the toy dinosaur and stick it into the Play-Doh and feel the shapes and get the little aspect of paleontology. Next slide, please. Dino egg race. We got wooden spoons from the dollar store, already had the shaker eggs. You could use a plastic spoon as well. And they love the competition of the egg race. Next slide, please. Dino Tales for kids that wanted to just chill out. They went in the corner and I had a mixture of nonfiction and fiction books for them to enjoy. Next slide, please. Dino Terrarium. I know somebody already did this in the before, but I use glow-in-the-dark dinosaurs instead of a nightlight. But you could use a nightlight as well, but they really enjoyed that because then when they get home at night, when they flick off the light, there's a little glowing dinosaur in there. And that is in my supply list. You can find out where you can get those. I just actually found them in Hobby Lobby recently, so I'm set for this summer. Next slide, please. And this is our little snack time.
That's good.
Okay. And
No,
that's
it's I'm
okay.
I'm sorry, keep going.
Okay. So this is just the snack time. And what they like to do is I did a little bag of bones and they can attach the marshmallows and maybe build a little dinosaur out of the T-Rex treats. Again, I try to keep it low cost and on a budget. T-Rex iced tea or glacier water, mostly from the dollar store. Next slide, please. And a little mud cup if they want to get a little more yummy, yummy, okay? And then in the end, I have my list. Okay, and feel free to email me if you have any questions.
Wonderful,
Thank you.
Eileen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for what a plethora of ideas for us.
Oh.
And the question again is, are you doing these all as stations at once, or do you kind of spread these out over programs?
This will probably be spread out because I added more to it, but usually it's as I said, a sensory program. And then I added the older versions because there were siblings that were joining and I felt bad for them. So of course I, wanted to welcome them. So that's how I ended up doing 3 to 7 years old. It's usually 3 to 5. So, but I might split this up. I might do 2 versions.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just also thought I appreciated so much what you said about the motor skills that were used. And I think Brianna in the beginning also talked about that. And it, occurs to me that we could make some beautiful signs that we put in one of those acrylic sign holders. And then we put out when parents are dropping off kits that says this program, helps your child with, and lists all those different skills as one more way of increasing the library's credibility.
That's true.
Eileen, thank you so much for all
Thank
that
you for
shared.
having me. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.
And we
Keep
are going to
warm,
go,
everyone.
you bet. And we are going to go on to Act It Out for the dramatically inclined. This sounds like a lot of fun. We have Samantha DiPietro and Sarah Aosa from the Levittown Public Library. So, friends, take it away.
Hi, guys. So I'm Sarah. And I'm Samantha. And we work at Levittown Public Library. We're children's librarians. You can go to the next slide. And we're going to talk really fast because we have a lot to say. So we serve a Long Island population of 6 elementary schools and 2 preschools. The point of our program was foremost to just have fun, but to generate hype for an amazing summer reading, to practice public speaking, confidence, following cues, to promote all of our library programming that we have this summer, to create a sense of ownership for the kids to be part of that experience and to also be promoted in themselves, and for our social media and for our schools to all be linked for one big program. Next slide, please. So for our planning and prep, most of it just fell on us and getting a script ready. We've done simple one-liners. We've done scripts that are more detailed with information and dates, but we found that the simple one-liners were better for the kids. Also, just knowing if you're going to be doing it with your own staff or if you're going to hire somebody. We've transitioned to mostly just doing it ourselves now. Actor registration, getting your actors involved and registered is very, very important. And having a photo release form that you guys use to make sure that everybody knows how widespread this video is going to be and that nobody is upset when they see their kid's face on Facebook or social media. to make sure that you buy, gather, and make props ahead of time so that you have everything ready for what you plan to do, and to make sure that your room setups are done, plan your recording locations and any backup spaces, because you never know what you're going to come up with in the moment. You'll see on the page just a sample of our script from last year. The yellow is what the scene looked like, and the not highlighted part is what the kids were actually saying. And then just some props that we have coming up. And if you're as lucky as we are that you might have somebody who has some bones at home or some skeletons, that's actually a real skeleton on the bottom there that you might be able to bring in and use as some props. Next slide, please. You can go as budget friendly as you want. It could be free or it could be $600+. So free would just be using what you have, what your staff has, what people can bring in or donate, and using your cell phone or tablet to record. There's so many options out there. Also a medium-sized budget, you could do an editing software, which Sam will talk about soon. You can buy some props, buy some activities for the kids to do while you're recording, and just also have things that they might be able to take home. If you want to go a little bit more high-end, or if you don't have the staff to run the program, you could hire an acting coach. We have done that in the past, and she was wonderful to work with, but comes with its own challenges as well. And to go more high-end props, depending on what you want to do. For scalability, same thing as the budget. Class size and ages could be varied to whatever you want. We do K-5, but you could do younger if you feel that they can handle it. Can be as simple or complex. You could go with very hard lines or very simple lines. Like I said, one-liners work for us. Can be one session, multiple sessions. We've done it in the past where it's been 2. We're going to try and just do 1 this year. Acting skills and games are also options to get the kids more involved and more prepared for their roles. And you can have props or activities for them to do, especially while they're waiting to be recorded. And definitely have more than 1 location set up, especially if there's an issue with one location that you have. Next slide, please. And action, getting involved. These are our adorable actors from the past couple of years. Photo release, very, very important. We actually, even when they come to sign in, have the parents sign it again to make sure that they understand that this is not just going to be shown to their friends. This is going everywhere. Video orientation, make sure that you are video recording everything the same way, whether that's horizontal or vertical, just make sure it's all the same. Green room, that's what we call our little space that we keep the kids in before they're recording. We pull out just a couple of kids at a time, because otherwise 20 kids out on the floor can get very noisy and you need it to be quiet. Record multiple sessions and record more than you need, and keep everything, because you never know what little clip is going to fit perfect where you need it. And that's very important to keep it. Be patient, be flexible, and make sure that they're having fun, because at the end of the day, them smiling and giggling sometimes makes the video even better. And now I'll let Sam talk about some of the editing.
So next slide, please. So putting it all together, and this is where kind of the magic happens at the end. We like to use our editing software to edit the videos. We use a program called WeVideo, but there are other options, which I'll discuss in a minute. Extended airtime, whenever we are recording, we always record a lot extra. I always joke that we do the 10-second awkward wave. And we do that because this way, when I'm adding my transitions in at the beginning of the video, at the end of the video, a 10-second video is now brought down to only 6 seconds or even 5. So having that extra extended time at the end and at the beginning allows you to edit it as much or as little as you want. It's very hard to add things in. It's very easy to cut things away when you're editing. Also, that's the time when you can add in sound effects, music, animations. Knowing your possibilities with your software beforehand make it a lot easier to, when you're recording, to know what exactly you want in that recording. The possibilities really are endless, and you can add in so much extra stuff. Preparing the schools, you want to coordinate. We have a coordinator for our elementary schools that I contact at the beginning, and I share the video with her at the beginning, and then she shares it with all of the elementary schools and the classroom teachers. We used to specifically go to meet with all of the classrooms. We found that scheduling just became a nightmare. We do have 6 elementary schools with, multiple classes in each age range. So it just became too much. This way, we're able to share a video. The teachers are able to show it at their own time in their classrooms, and every kid is able to see the video and get hyped up for our summer reading program. And then, of course, we do a social media push right before summer reading starts, just to get everybody excited. The kids are really excited to see themselves, to show their friends, and it gets everybody very excited. Next slide. Software options, I said briefly, we use WeVideo. We use a paid subscription, which gives us a lot more options as far as the animations and the music and things that we can use. But there are free versions of that as well. Also, Canva has their own editing software, as do a lot of phone apps do it as well. And a lot of those have some free options, just depending on what works for you and your budget. Next slide. Video editing, layers are your friends. So this looks very intimidating and overwhelming, but it's very easy if you just remember that it's multiple layers. So this one slide is actually 5 different layers. There's a white background, then there's a color animation that I put on top of it. Then there's our title card, which has our summer reading logo. Then there's the dates that go on top of that. And then there's a music that goes on top of that. We'll be showing a little piece of the video at the end. So you'll get to see how this kind of all comes together. But even though it looks very intimidating, once you remember that it's just layer upon layer, it's actually very, very simple. Next slide. Again, the video editing, like I said before, knowing what you have available in your video software allows you to be able to put these things in. So like with Miss Sarah, I knew that I had a color swirl that was available in my software. So I had her look like she was painting the room, and we were able to add that then at the end during our editing. We also have the different transitions, that made it easy to add at the end. We could add the dates, the contact information, any specific programs that you wanted to highlight, you can add that. You can get as complicated or as simple as you want. Next slide. Struggles and hiccups. One of the biggest one is noise management. Background noise is something that you have to be very aware of when you're doing your recording. That's why we have a green room where we keep all of the kids and then we pull them out one at a time to be able to record in a quiet area. We're a public building, so sometimes the room that we were going to record in is no longer quiet, so we have to move to another location. So just having, those options available and knowing when to pivot is very, very important. Knowing your actor's strengths. Some kids work really well together with their friends. Other times they get very distracted very easily. So knowing the kids and knowing when, to have to separate them is also another option. And also knowing we had one child that really struggled with a sentence that we had given her. And we realized afterwards that she was struggling with the letter S. So simply by changing the words, she shone, and it worked out really, really good. And then also keeping that green room occupied. We're going to be having a movie that we're going to be showing, some snacks, some coloring sheets, just to keep the kids that are not currently recording occupied during that time. Next slide. These are just some stills from some of the different videos that we've done in the past, showing our crafts that are coming up, showing some of the things that we had in the room. We had some kids with some masks, highlighting one of our Pokemon programs that we were doing. So just some really fun things that we were able to do. Next slide. And then these are the links to our videos that we've done in the past. And then I think we have a minute that we could show you just some of the sample clips that I had put together of some of our videos from the past.
Hey, that's a cool book. We are getting ready to color our world at the Levittown Public Library.
Summer reading adventures start June 30th to August 9th.
We're going to have a Swiftacular kickoff show
with music and more.
Can't wait to stop around like dinosaurs.
Our favorite dinosaur too. Story time and trivia too.
Share stories and spin tales.
And act it out. Adventure begins in the library.
Let's begin our summer adventure.
What's this? It's a summer reading list.
So many books to discover.
See you this
Kind of project. So Samantha and Sarah and Jackie, who we don't see, but we give her credit as well. Thank you so much for such a good program and for sharing uplifting images with us at the end of this day. So thank you. So we are going to send out the slideshow. We're going to send out the recording, which will be time-stamped. Give us a little bit of time to get that ready for you. But you will get the resources from today to allow you to do some of these great programs. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Joni for the wrap up.
All right, that is a wrap. Everyone can hear me, I hope. Perfect. So thank you so much for joining us for our annual Children's Summer Reading Workshop. We hope today helps you dig up new ideas, uncover fresh inspiration, and unearth stories that you're excited to share this summer. So like Mary said, you'll be emailed the recording of this entire workshop from your library system rep. A very special thank you to all of our incredible presenters, as well as our team of amazing colleagues who made this happen today. So great job, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay warm, and cheers for summer reading.